welcome to the Big Scuba podcast. Thanks for downloading. Time to get on board and let's go diving. Mind those ropes.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Rod Macdonald. I'm an author specialising in shipwrecks in the UK and around the world. And I'm here on this Big Scuba podcast with Gemma and Ian. Hi guys.
Hello and welcome to the Big Scuba podcast. My name is Ian. I'm one of the co-hosts, and with me in the Auto Trail 68 XL is...
Hello, my name is Gemma. Welcome to Big Scuba podcast with a lovely view from our Expedition X68 XL.
Yeah, we are on site. We're in Weybridge today by the lake, and the Auto Trail Expedition 68 XL has all been set up for our recording this morning.
It's a studio this morning.
Yeah, we've got a guest for you coming up. His name is Rod Macdonald, and he's an author and a wreck diver, and done lots of books. You might have heard from him, heard about him. He's written books on Bikini Atolls, his latest book, Dive Scapa, Dive Truk Lagoon, and lots more.
Yes, yeah. And he's
lots of books, I think he's
very
done.
Experienced diver, and he likes all the history side of things.
Yeah.
That's
He's not a farmer, so don't.
No.
So he's not a farmer. Just because his name's Macdonald.
We said his school days might have been interesting.
I'm sure they were.
Yeah.
You know, but he's not a farmer. He's a diver, and that's why we've got him on. Right from the top, let me tell you, these episodes are sponsored by the lovely people at
Not at 90. They're beyond technical. So, yep, they're our sponsors, and they cater for recreational needs, but they're real specialists in technical diving. They service rebreathers, they service dive computers. So look their website up, and if you've got any challenges with your equipment, then ask them. Because
there's so many ways you could take that. Have you got a challenge with your equipment? No, last time I checked it was okay.
John and Brent like solving problems, don't they?
They love it.
Or making a
it.
solution.
Yeah, they do actually, to be fair. So, hey, you know, don't take our word for it. Have a listen to the podcast that we made with them a few weeks ago. So, episode 220, something like that.
Yeah, but it was a popular podcast as well, performing. Yeah,
really, popular
really
guys.
Well. Yeah. But they've got some interesting stories, haven't they?
They have.
Yeah, dicey stories.
Diving on neon gas, which that was always one that's blew my mind. So wow.
Yeah.
Who knew?
You can say they're pioneers in the rebreather evolution, really.
Yeah. They did have an issue with their website. That's all corrected. That's all fine and dandy.
Yep.
So they're taking orders, everything that you need, and there'll be a link in the show notes how to find that website as well.
Yeah.
As it always is.
Yeah, you can order online as well. So yeah, it's really easy.
Yeah, I've been diving, but we'll come to that in a bit. Sad news, I'm afraid. Sad news in the diving world. Diving is a risk. We all know it, and unfortunately these things do happen. And it's and as always with these things, our thoughts are always with the friends and family of those left behind. And it's very sad to hear that a group of divers went in the Maldives and they didn't make it back from their dive experience.
No, they were Italian, weren't they?
Yeah,
5 Italians.
And sounds like they're having we're having a diving holiday, and unfortunately it's gone wrong.
Yeah.
And sorry to hear that, and unfortunately as well, that's also created the death of one of the government divers, military divers, who went down to get them.
The cave system is notorious for strong currents, so it obviously is a dangerous environment, but it seems like they were on recreational gear and they descended to like 50 odd meters, which is way beyond recreational advice.
And we don't know what's happened, and I'm sure as time go on there'll be more details released, but yeah, a sad event, unfortunately, for everyone involved. And also there was in the news as well that a coroner at Preston Coroner's Court has examined the death of a recreational diver. This one's in the UK. Inquest into examines the diver divers' death at Capon Ray. An IPO was identified as the likely point.
Yeah, he was
What
52
happened.
as well, so a youngster really.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Nearly as old as you.
But on a positive note, these situations, they're all learning points of how to approach things in the future for divers.
Yeah.
But it's just unfortunate that something tragic happens that brings it about.
If you do any sort of sport that's kind of got a danger to it and there's training involved, there's always a risk. Go horse riding,
Driving
these things happen.
even.
driving to the actual diving lake has its risks, and so as sad as what these things are, you just have to take it and move on. But our thoughts are with everybody involved.
Yeah, I'm sure everybody
and their
involved in the
friends.
scuba scene will have heard about it or seen it on social media. So,
Yeah, very sad.
Yeah.
And Lundy.
yes, so
That's all kicking off.
Lundy diving, we've dived with them several times.
Yeah.
We've been out on the boat, the Barbara Bee, and their season is just about to kick off. I think that it's the 25th anniversary as
What
well.
about that?
Yeah,
25 years.
amazing.
That's amazing, isn't it?
It's a real family business. So Ben and his sister Gemma now sort of are heading it up, and they've got a really successful business. It's grown since we've known them over 4 years. Yeah, so look them up. So you can dive, you can go wild swimming, and they take you out to Lundy and you see all these friendly seals.
Yeah, so that's pretty amazing. So we hope they have a very good season, and I'm sure it's always good putting the whelk
Yeah, the whelk
the
pots away.
pots away until the winter again.
Yeah, so in the winter, Ben and his crew, they are fishermen and they
Yeah.
fish for whelks, and it is the same boat that they use for the dive
Yeah, they
trips.
just take the seats
convert.
off.
Yeah, they just convert it.
Yeah.
And so they'll be busy putting the benches back, won't they? And
Yeah.
making it all nice and comfy. And so and it's a good boat to dive on. They've got sides to it now, so you can get out of the wind and you don't get wet. We've had the experience of getting very wet on that boat when they didn't have these.
Not as wet as the guy who lost his shorts.
No, we had a very bumpy
And
ride.
The other people were hanging over the edge, throwing up.
Yeah.
Weren't as wet as that. In fact, although saying that, actually, Honey was the only person who stayed dry on the whole boat,
Yeah, she had the right seating.
which was amazing, considering I sat next to her and I was having a bucket of water chucked on me probably every couple of seconds,
Yeah.
and my dry robe, which is pretty waterproof at best, gave up. I'd say probably about halfway along, and I was just soaked.
It's one of the fun boat trips we've had.
Oh,
I'd
it was
say.
definitely
It's
fun.
Yeah.
Especially seeing the guy with no shorts hanging over the edge, puking up.
Yeah,
And
taking
he
it all in
had
his
one
stride.
hand. He had one hand on the railings trying to hold on, and the other hand with his
Keeping
shorts.
his shorts up. Bit of butt crack.
So sorry. And that's where we met Cave Crawler as well, wasn't it?
Was it that one?
It was, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know
No,
if that was
it's
that
one.
one, but it was on Lundy, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was the first one we went on, wasn't
where
it?
we
Just
met
you and I.
Dave
Mason.
and Roger the Cabin Boy. He will always be known as Roger
Yes.
the Cabin Boy.
And we met them, so that must have been, 4 or 5 years ago? And
Yeah.
Dave has followed us right from the very beginning. So
And he's coming on.
He's coming on as a
He's
guest.
coming on.
Yeah.
What
So,
about that?
yeah, and he started his diving journey pretty much the same time I started mine, I think.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so he'll be an interesting guy to talk
Yeah,
to.
look forward to getting him on. What else?
What
Oh,
else?
I've been diving.
Oh yeah, that was only yesterday. Yeah.
And so I went up to see Mark, aka Scoobs, for a bimble around the lake. That was very nice, and I took this up for a trip,
Yeah.
and that was very nice and very comfortable, and visibility really good. I got some shout outs actually, because slap straps, some people had some slap straps, some 90 slap straps. Now I've got to read somebody's writing here, so I might have got the right. But there was a crew up from, I think it was Luton.
Which isn't
BZAC.
that far away from Spring
No,
Lakes.
but I
is it?
might
It's
be
just-
wrong. Don't hold me to that. But we've got Joe, Seb, Joe, Maisie, Marcus. I just seen on the writing. Ripley,
Ripley.
BZAC. So Ripley, BZAC, not Luton. Sorry. Alan, John, and Isla, and I can't read that. But we were all looked after by Mark and his wife Louise, and we had a great time.
Good.
Good day. I don't know where the time went actually, because it went really quick.
Yeah, it's surprising. By the time you get kitted up and sorted, and then you're doing social media footage.
Yeah, really nice. And it's not many lakes you can go diving, and you can literally park your bus right up to the water's edge.
Yeah.
And you've got a few yards between where you're getting kitted up and striding in, and it's all well looked after, all well thought out. You've got metal railings to help you in.
And it's a gentle slope into the
Gentle
water,
slope
isn't it?
in,
Yeah.
all nice. And you've got a bench right by the waterside, so you can sit down, you can put your fins on, you can put your BCD or whatever you're wearing all together on.
Yeah.
And I think the first platform sits at about 4 meters. I think it sits about 4 meters.
Yeah, it's not.
There's boats in there, things like that. It's not deep. Get over it. It's not deep.
Yeah, but
And,
it's a training ground, isn't it?
It's a great place.
Yeah.
It's a great place for check dives. It's a great place for training. He's had Scoob's had another group in a BZAC group in later for training in the afternoon, especially youngsters. Because let's face it, and I've seen it myself. You get youngsters come along who've never done. In fact, I've seen adults, big burly men, go to do their first jump in the water,
jelly.
and absolutely fold. So it's not just youngsters. That can be on a Saturday morning somewhere like Stone. It can be a bit intimidating if you've never dived before and all you've known is a pond, not pond, is a pool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and with Spring Lakes, it is a really chilled environment.
It's
isn't
quiet.
It? It's amazing.
It's quiet.
Yeah.
I think the max amount of divers they're limited to is 30 in one day. And airfills, everything. So every time I've been there, there's a whole change. They're adding more to the site.
Yeah.
And eventually, there's a whole new block coming in, and so airfills, everything, payment, the whole lot. The dive centre will all be right by the lake.
Yeah. So good, isn't it?
Yeah. Toilets. Hark! Is that the sound of the kettle?
We can hear the woo.
So-
tea up.
Tea up.
And while the tea is brewing, let's listen to Ian's interview with the Scoobs on the shores of Spring Lakes, Westlake.
Right, so we're now going to cut into the middle of the podcast and talk about Spring Lakes, because last time I dived here was in October last year, and here we are diving in May 2026, depending on when you're listening to this. Could be a year's time or whatever, but we'll get an update of where we are up to at Spring Lakes. And with me is the boy Scoobs.
Okay.
So, we just had a great dive, and it was a nice 40 minutes dive and a bimbo about. We saw lots of bits and pieces.
Yeah.
So, what's changed since I last here in October? Because every time I come, there's something new.
Yes.
We've got a new sort of promenade and metalwork here.
Yeah, we've got basically we've got stride entries now for divers that are learning. We've just seen some ocean divers just going in, which is really important as part of the course. They don't just do strides; they do back rolls, forward rolls, gets them into the water safely.
Yeah.
And it's a different form of entering the water.
Okay.
So the platforms are great. It's a winner. We've also got the container that's been lifted up, so we're turning that into a shop. Hopefully, the next few months we'll be in transition and making it all finished.
Yeah.
So we're here permanently.
Because last time that was 2 units, now you just cut into one.
That's it. Yeah. So we made use of 2 containers. we'll be finishing it inside. It'll look quite surfy, shacky, bit like we've got back over at Spring Lakes.
So the intention is to come away from up there, and then all be here.
Yeah, that's it.
Brilliant.
So when divers come to us now, then we're going to go back and forth with.
So I notice you've got signs.
Yes.
Right at the bottom now that guide you all the way up here. Now.
That's right. Yeah. We have got another sign that takes you into Spring Lakes because we're not finished from there yet. But once we're permanently over here, then that sign will come down and it'll guide you over to this area.
Excellent.
So you can get your air fills, you come dive in here, or try some equipment on, buy some equipment through Cressy, etc. So it's all coming together, and it's thanks to everybody that's using Divers Time Westlake. And yourself coming over today.
Yeah, well, we love it coming up here. So always good visibility.
It's a nice dive,
and there's a lot of thought gone into. We were talking about earlier that you can get kitted up right by the waterside.
Yeah.
And also, you can get, as soon as you come out of the water, you can get your fins off, put your stuff aside. You've got handrails that go into the water to help you get out.
It's all these things that are really important, when you're learning, and some people just need that little bit of guidance as well when you're going down because the equipment's heavy, etc. When you come out, you need a little bit of a break so you can sit down at the benches. And it's a stone car park, but it's a stone throw to the water. So, that's why I've learnt a lot from divers, and over the years been diving myself, different areas. How can we make things easier for divers?
Yeah, and a good water temperature as well, 14, 15 degrees.
We've had some hot weather in May, but today's dropped off a little bit. But 14 degrees. I'm happy with that.
Did you see the little perch?
Yeah, we've got a perch.
Yeah,
there.
I saw that little perch. Yeah.
The fish life is not really abundant at the minute, but it's a different.
Well, they kind of disappear over the winter, and then they start drifting back in the summer, don't they?
We'll have them back, definitely the perch, and we'll also have the pikes and the carp as well.
Yeah, I've seen pike here. Yeah.
So it'd be nice that for more divers to come and see.
We saw Mr. Torbett's mound, the big stone.
Torbett's Rock, where he landed, literally where the yellow buoy is. So we're quite proud of that. And
So you've got another festival coming up, haven't you, in July?
It's the Scuba and Snort Fest again, 2026, July the 25th.
Right, okay.
So looking forward to that. Andy Torbett will be making his presence again.
All right, excellent, good.
So he'll be coming in via parachute and...
Well, of course. He doesn't normally doesn't like to normally drive in like everyone else. How does he get on with Tesco? Do you think they get annoyed with him parachuting in just like that?
You never know. I think that's quite exciting.
Go to Tesco's, you go in by parachute. Go to doctors, go in by parachute.
Pretty cool, isn't he? It's
well,
pretty cool.
He's got to maintain it, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has. But listen, it's not just Al. There'll be a few. Andy, there'll be Al as well, and there'll be a few other people doing the skydiving as well into the lake.
So there'll be diving going on.
There'll be diving. There'll be stalls here from Cressy, from Dynamic Nord, Kubia coming, and Maya Flex hoses.
Oh, excellent.
So we've got a good lineup, maybe a few other people.
Some good brands.
Yeah, there is good brands. The Army lads will be here as well.
All right, what are they doing?
Demonstrations. They're going to have a massive water tank here.
Excellent.
And they're going to show you how they do the commercial stuff.
Oh, cool.
You'll be able to interact with them with a full face helmet. So that's quite exciting. We've got a DJ.
When you say tank, what do you mean? What, like Sherman type tank?
No, not a tank that you shoot missiles from.
Oh.
It's a big water tank.
Right.
So it's what they bring on their vehicle, on their lorry.
Okay.
So they'll set it up, and it's like a big swimming pool basically.
Oh, wow.
And they'll have all the commercial equipment on, like the full face masks.
That'd be good.
Especially
really, for youngsters.
They can see
who are thinking about getting into that sort of thing.
A bit of a career development. They can show you how that sort of path goes. And we got DJ Bertie.
Who's he?
He's our DJ that comes out and gives us really good music, nice vibes.
Excellent.
Not too loud, but it's music in the background.
Yeah.
And also they'll be talking to us when Andy approaches via aeroplane and jumping
guiding him in.
Yeah, guiding him into
this way, Andy.
Yeah, this way.
Left a bit. Left a bit.
And ice cream.
All right, well, that's most important.
Yeah, ice cream. It's got a nice hot day, and we've got a food truck as well.
You booked the heat already, have you?
Yeah,
booked the sun.
We had 40 degrees last year, so it was the hottest day of the year. So maybe it's going to be the same for us this year.
Wetsuit then.
Yeah, so brilliant. Wetsuit, shorties.
Yeah.
If you want to wear a dry suit, I think you'll be sweltering. But
I prefer to dive in a wetsuit as much as possible, really. Although, gone for dry suit today.
Today's dry suit, yeah. You come out, it's a little bit of a wind chill today, so you have to prepare yourself for all elements, I think.
All right, so excellent. So it's all happening in July then.
July, and then the rest of the year, you know, anyone's more than welcome to come down. You're a certified diver. If you want to learn how to dive through Divers Time, please let us know. www.diverstime.com. Drop us a line, and we'll get you on your
social media.
Social media, Facebook, Instagram. We don't do a lot on TikTok, but we are learning.
Well, aren't we all?
Yeah.
You know, there's only so much time in the day.
There is, yeah. You've got to have a bit of family time as well.
You have, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, well, brilliant. That was a very nice dive, and thank you very much.
Thanks,
and
always a pleasure.
I think we're going to come back in half term, because half term's just round the corner.
That is, yeah.
And I'll bring the Scuba Honey with me.
Yeah, more than welcome.
She likes coming up here as well. So.
Brilliant. And she could try some more Cressy equipment if she wants to. More than happy to share the Cressy equipment brand that we all like diving in.
So there we are. If you haven't been to Spring Lakes and to the West Lake, this is where you got to come.
Perfect. Thanks, buddy.
Cheers, thank you.
Well done. Thank you.
Anyway, so we're back. I've made a cup of tea.
Thank you very much.
And I'm just about to open. Somebody didn't want the little sponsored rich tea.
There are other supermarkets available.
But somebody wanted the proper rich tea that I bought. And, well, funny that, really.
I see my stomach.
Why can you not get in biscuits like when...
It's because they're good
Why do
quality
they-
ones. You just get a knife.
Anyway, talk amongst yourselves while we try and get in the rich tea. So I was diving yesterday.
Yes, yeah. And you were hosted by Scoops. So he took you on a dive of Spring Lakes.
Yeah. And
See much?
there I saw some fish. Yeah, some perch in there.
Yeah.
There's pike in there.
And the weed, was that
There's
quite...
lots of little critters, little sort of weird. I don't know what they are. Oh, they're like mayfly. I think is what they are.
Underwater?
Yeah, underwater, and they got the sticks. So when the larvae, whatever happens to them, anyway, the larvae, they got the stick like a stick attached to them.
What, to get out of their...
Well, I think that's what they must get. You know, what do they lay? Eggs?
Well, yeah, and then...
Anyone help us out? Anyone know about mayflies?
Don't they then emerge from the larvae as, like a butterfly does? It's a caterpillar and then it's butterfly.
Yes, like that.
Is it chrysalis, it's called?
Okay, we'll go with that. But anyway, so there's lots of them and lots of these like sort of like little shrimps.
Yeah.
And lots of snails and stuff like that. So if you like your mini beasts and your creatures, as Mr. Steve Backshall would say, mini beasts.
Mini beasts.
There's loads of them.
Oh well, that's good. And there's a lot of weed, like colourful green weed.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So you'll find different things in amongst all that.
But it's a nice lake that you can just go to, you know, and it's quiet in the week as well, and 30 people in a lot, and no problem car parking. Got nice facilities. You know, if you've got a camper van or whatever, you go there, stay there overnight. We stayed there one night, didn't we?
Yeah, it was lovely.
Nice showers, bathrooms, the whole lot. If you want to rough it, you know, in the field in your camper van, I'm pretty sure if you spoke nicely to Scoobs, I'm sure they'll be able to sort something out as well if you come from a long distance.
Rough it, it's wild camping.
Oh, sorry. Wild camping.
That's funny. Yeah. And
I like electric.
Yeah, and I like a hot shower. If you are not a diver, there's paddleboarding, wild swimming, there's one of the activity water parks with all the inflatables.
Yeah.
And they do wakeboarding there where they zip around on a wire and you can go over the ramps and things.
Which is pretty cool. I was watching them yesterday.
Yeah, so even if you're going with somebody that doesn't dive, there's plenty to keep them occupied. You know, they can wander around, and there's a good cafe there as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so definitely look it up, Spring Lakes.
So I was eating a biscuit.
And that was your first dive this year, wasn't it?
It was. Yeah. Because like, where's the year gone?
I know, and I've still got to get in the water as well.
Anyway, hello to Matt River, because I was talking to him this morning and about getting in the water somewhere in a couple of weeks' time with a bit of luck. So hopefully we'll find somewhere to somewhere else to try and explore.
Yep.
Which would be good. And he's actually diving with Crystal Seas in Plymouth at the minute.
I saw Matt Ireland and Greg there as well.
Oh, the boy Greg.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, cool.
Matt had posted a video. He's got one of the 360s cameras, and a fish literally headbutted it.
They're things, aren't they?
Yeah, and there were loads of crayfish as well. So, yeah, it looks like they've had a really good time.
And shrimps.
Well, they're on wrecks, aren't they? Yeah, not rocks.
I don't know. Surely you get shrimps on wrecks as well, do you?
Yeah,
I think shrimps are now my favourite thing.
Yeah. Well, we're looking forward to the Farnes trip, which is another couple of months
Shrimps
away.
and octopuses.
We might see some octopus.
Octopi.
Yep, double sucker octopus is a common thing now. Mediterranean octopus, they are.
Oh, what?
A double sucker octopus.
Come on, that's a made-up name. That has to be a made-up name.
It's a species of, and we are now have got an invasion of them.
We're invaded by double suckers
in
people.
Cornwall, and I work for a seafood business, and we're selling
Oh,
kilos of it. Yeah.
Well, there we are.
Yeah.
You heard it here first, guys.
Well, I mean, nothing better than octopus on a barbecue.
With a bit of garlic.
Yeah.
And don't start writing in and complaining. We're talking about sustainable way of
eating and catching fish. Yes.
Don't start just because we mentioned
octopus and scallops.
It happens all around the world.
Yeah. So anyway, but yeah, we hope Crystal Seas have had a great time.
Yeah.
So,
I think that kind of covers the news.
Yes. So I think we've got some more guests lined up in the coming
Got loads
week.
of guests lined up.
We're not doing any recording in the next couple of weeks, but June looks quite busy.
Yeah. So don't forget, if you've got a story, maybe if you're listening to this, or you're an author, and we've got a few authors lined up coming in, and but if you are an author and you've got something to, you're in the diving world, you're a diver, and you've got a story to tell, well, this is the place to come and tell it.
Yeah, and thank you to the people that have contacted us recently. We've had several emails. I think we get a few each week with people saying they're prospective guests or they'd like to recommend people.
We've reached out to a few people as well that we're just waiting to hear back on, aren't we?
Yeah.
It's a bit too early to mention them in a minute, but once we know, then we will share that with the class. But if you're something to do with, we spoke to saturation divers, we spoke to wreck divers, cave divers, tech divers. But if you've got we particularly like people who've got an element to the diving, or some kind of underwater thing that you do which is a bit unusual.
Yes.
Maybe we spoke to a magician, we spoke to
artists.
A poet, artists, sculptors as well. But anything else?
We've spoken to free divers, but if you're a free diver, spearfishing. Yes.
Spearfishing is free diving with a gun.
Yeah.
It's all sustainable. So, be good to hear from you.
Yeah, so drop us an email or slide into our DMs on our social media, and we will then make contact. What are you looking like that for?
Slide into our
I've
DMs.
heard somebody say that.
What, are we on TikTok or something?
Anyway, so slide
into the DMs. There we go.
Nice
We
and
heard
relaxed.
it there. There we go.
Yeah, nothing to be scared of, because we have people say, "Oh, I'm going to mess it up," and I'm really nervous. But there's nothing to be nervous about. And we're actually recording next Sunday.
We are locally, aren't we?
Yeah. So we'll be in the camper van again.
Where are we going?
Leiston, Sizewell. Yeah, so that'd be exciting.
I will.
So we'll
Look forward to that. Yeah.
But share the podcast with your friends and your dive buddies. You can download us on all popular podcast platforms.
Yeah.
You can go to our website and listen as well. Don't forget to sign up to our newsletter as well. That comes out periodically with offers on and news. So you can see a bit more. There'll be one coming out, and it will feature the Auto Trail Expedition. Brilliant. 68. And just keep an eye on our social media, YouTube as well.
Yeah,
we're all over it.
All on it. All right. Well, on that note, let's get the man in and let's have a chat. This is Rod Macdonald.
Before we get into our main conversation with Rod Macdonald, he's going to read a short extract from his latest book, Bikini Atoll.
Hi, this is Rod Macdonald, author of Bikini Atoll, Shipwrecks of the Nuclear Tests. The Empire of Japan formally surrendered unconditionally to the Allies aboard the battleship USS Missouri in Tokyo Bay on 2nd September 1945. Almost unbelievably, the World War was over without the need for a land invasion of Japan. How many countless tens of thousands of Allied lives had been saved by the 2 atomic bombs? But whilst the US Army had seen the effects of the nuclear blasts on the cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the US Navy wanted to know what effect the new atomic weapons would have on their most important warships, on battleships, aircraft carriers, cruisers, destroyers, and surface and submerged submarines. How far should a ship be from an atomic bomb to survive? What were the ship's weakest points? Which parts would fail? Where should strength be added to withstand a nuclear device? What worked best, riveted seams or welded seams? What would happen to a ship's structural frames as they received a hammer blow of millions of tons through the water? What would happen to decks, to superstructures and masts, to boilers and turbines? What would happen to guns? Fuel supplies escape and burst into flames? Would magazines be set off? At what range would the deadly gamma radiation be fatal? How could a ship be protected? How could the crew be protected? The questions were legion, but a test might reveal whether ships could be arranged or separated, both at sea and in port, in such a way that would prevent a nuclear weapon sinking more than one ship. No one knew what the effects of an underwater explosion would be. How many millions of tons of water would be thrown into the air, and how far? How big would the water crater be? And at what ranges would ships be fatally damaged or capsized by the first giant solitary wave that was expected to tower more than 100 feet? The USA needed somewhere extremely remote to conduct its experimental nuclear weapons testing, so they chose Bikini Atoll, a beautiful Pacific coral atoll in the Marshall Islands in the middle of the Pacific, and perhaps the most remote group of islands on the planet. The initial nuclear experiments were assigned the codename Operation Crossroads. The initial airburst would be codenamed Test Able, and the second underwater burst would be codenamed Test Baker. The 167 local islanders were moved out of their once tranquil tropical paradise, whilst redundant warships were moved to the lagoon and moored strategically around the test area so that the effects of a nuclear blast on the most formidable fighting ships of the day could be studied. In total, the US would go on to conduct 25 nuclear tests on the atoll between 1946 and 1957, when it finally handed the radiation-ravaged Coral Islands back to the locals. But as illness ravaged the population, the Bikini Islanders were evacuated once again in 1968 and to this day remain in nuclear exile. Unsurprisingly, Bikini was closed to all visitors until the 1990s, but with radiation in the waters of the lagoon at safe levels, Bikini was able to open its lagoon to divers, and hosting wrecks of some of the most famous ships of the Second World War, Bikini soon became a magnet for technical divers. Today, diving the Bikini Atoll wrecks is seen as the ultimate diving experience. The Japanese battleship Nagato, flagship of the Imperial Japanese Navy's combined fleet at the time of the attack on Pearl Harbor on 7 December 1941, lies upturned on the bottom. The massive 850-foot-long aircraft carrier USS Saratoga, which sank amongst the planes blown from her flight deck, sits upright in just over 50 metres of water. Yet despite its fame, little had been written about the Bikini's shipwrecks. So my new book, Bikini Atoll, Shipwrecks of the Nuclear Tests, aims to fill that gap and is full of wonderful underwater photographs and brand new illustrations of the major shipwrecks on the bottom today.
This episode is brought to you by Narked at 90, the cutting-edge pioneers in the world of diving equipment. Meet the founders, John Routley and Brent Hudson, who have logged thousands of mixed gas dives over the past 3 decades. About 20 years ago, these experienced technical divers combined their passion for diving and engineering skills to create Narked at 90. Whether you're new to diving and ready to take it up a notch, have a fair amount of experience, or are considering a transition into technical diving, we highly recommend Narked at 90. They're ready to advise on the best equipment and setup for your personal and commercial needs. Narked at 90 also has extensive hands-on experience with shearwater and ratio dive computers, being the longest-serving UK service centre for these brands. They're ready to offer technical support, servicing, repairs and upgrades for all shearwater and ratio computers past and present. In addition to shearwater and ratio, Narked at 90 stocks and supports many other brands such as DiveSoft, JJCCR, Hollis, Revo and Kiss rebreathers. The diving community is always enthusiastic about Narked at 90 and it's easy to see why. Here are just a few reasons. Full head servicing for rebreathers from various manufacturers, bespoke cable assemblies, advice on specific fitting requirements, suggestions and guidance for home builds, computer laser cutting and engraving, CNC milling and turning, pressure testing to simulate 400-metre dives. We're thrilled to partner with Narked at 90, a company that has ignited so much passion for diving and has been incredibly supportive and innovative in producing and selling dive equipment. Visit narkedat90.com to see why they're a renowned name in diving. Stay updated on their insights and offers by following them on social media. Just search for Narked at 90 on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram and hit that follow button. Welcome to the Big Scuba podcast.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Let's dive straight in with the big question. What does being underwater mean to you?
It has been a huge part of my life. I started diving when I was 21. I've been diving for more than 40 years. So it's taken me to shipwrecks all around the world, the Pacific, the Med, Scapa Flow, English Channel, everywhere.
Yeah. So right back to the beginning, when you were 21, what made you get into diving? Was there an influence or was it just something that you wanted to tick off?
Yeah, when I was a student, I went and did an exchange student thing and I ended up down in Florida at the John Pennekamp Reef. And we all got taken out to go snorkeling on the reef. And I remember, looking down, there was a bunch of divers way down below. And I had this feeling that snorkeling is like driving a car. You're kind of on the outside looking in, but the divers were down there. They were part of the surroundings and there were sharks and all that. And it just seemed fantastic. And it was just that moment at John Pennekamp, Coral Reef Park, I think it's called, that got me into diving.
Yeah, that's really good because we talk to a lot of people about snorkeling and it's a good platform to then go into diving. So you were doing the very thing.
Yeah, that's right. So that was the first step. And then I started off as a young lawyer working in Peterhead and there was a scuba club at the local pool. And I thought I'll just go along and try it and see what it is. And clad in a t-shirt and a pair of trunks, you put your tank on, stick your regulator in your mouth, and as soon as your head goes underwater, then as you guys are divers, it's a whole different ball game then. And just my world changed that night when I went along, I think.
Yeah. So did you go throw yourself straight into it and get your qualifications?
Yeah, but back in the day, I mean, now it's all very fast track, Back in the day, you had about 6 months of, BSAC training before you could actually let you loose in the sea. So it was training at the pool every week and doing weird and we still dive for the big black rubber brick to prove you could do that in the deep end and taking off your tank and putting it on in the deep end and all that. So it was lots of practical training, but not so practical when you actually get into the sea and you see it for real. And they've got all the buoyancy issues in salt water.
Did you think that back then that you might one day dive all these wrecks and dive all the different parts of the world back then?
No, I mean, as soon as you start diving, you fall in love with the whole sensation of being underwater. And you guys are the same. You see it's a totally different seascape to what you see on land. And there's fish and there's conger eels and all that sort of stuff. So for the first couple of years, I was just happy doing the whole swimming around and looking at stuff thing. But then I was taken to a local shipwreck that was known about. It was known there was metal there, but nobody had ever been able to identify it. It was, I don't know if you know Slane's Castle, which was inspiration for Bram Stoker's Dracula. So it was based in the northeast of Scotland. And there was a 200-foot cliff. So the castle's there, 200-foot cliff down. And this wreck was all smashed up at the bottom of the cliffs. So it happened about 1893, I was able to find out. and it was a steamer coming, the SS Chicago, coming from America, I think, in a big fog. It was about 12 o'clock at night, and there was a servants' ball in the castle, and there was this grinding of metal, and then bang, and all the servants rushed out and stood at the end of the cliffs looking down to see this ship, stuck into the cliffs. The thing sunk. It was smashed up by the North Sea storms and forgotten about the history. So the club I started with, the Ellen Club, we dived it. And so I just put my lawyer's hat on and said, no, I'm going to try and find out what this one was. And I just went to the local newspapers and eventually found a reference to it, and hey presto, the whole story came out. So it was that was the kernel that got my interest in shipwreck diving, the thrill of actually identifying this and all the history that you find out about the ship afterwards.
Yeah. So your career kind of dictated that kind of realization, being a lawyer and being investigating.
Yeah. It was very easy for me to just because I had contacts in the local newspaper, for example, so I could speak to them and say, "Oh, any chance we can find out about this shipwreck?" And off we went.
Yeah.
So that was quite a thrill for me. That just started the whole thing going.
Yeah. And as a young diver, so you meant obviously you're in Scotland. Predominantly, was it all sea diving when you started, not inland diving?
We have got a quarry which was used just for training purposes. It's only 24 meters deep, black as the ace of spades, freezing cold, but it was still good to practice. And so other than that, it was all sea diving we were doing.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, amazing. So and from the qualifications going through the BSAC system, so did you progress quite quickly?
Well, I started off with the Scottish WWII Club, so I don't know if you guys have heard of that, but that was the local one. So after about 9 months or a year, I then switched to BSAC and took it on so far. Then it was a sport diver and dive leader. I don't know what the qualifications are nowadays for that, but so I did that, and just each year it went past, it just things got more advanced. By the time you're a dive leader back then, probably, I don't know if with 50 dives you thought that's it, you've really made it.
Yeah, no, that's good. So what kind of level are you at now? Are you a rebreather diver, technical diver? What's your setup?
Yeah, so nowadays I'm a technical diver, so I'm I think advanced mixed gas rebreather diver. So I haven't dived open circuit for 20 years. So I qualified. I had a group of sort of hardcore, technical divers, because trimix helium entered the recreational market in 1995. So my main diving buddy at the time, myself, were the first to go through the TDI trimix diver routine, but it was all open circuit then, because rebreathers hadn't come into the market. So rebreathers came in about 1998 to my group, and everybody got, but I was the last of the open circuit dinosaurs, I was called at the time, because I clung to open circuit. But then I was being left in long decos for an extra 15 minutes on my own when all the rebreather divers had got out. And it was clear that the rebreathers were far more beneficial to their bodies than open circuit was to mine. And I eventually made the transition about 2003, 2005 to rebreather diving.
Yeah, it's obviously quite a big investment as well, isn't it? To go from open circuit to closed.
Well, that was part of the thing. So being a canny Scot, we don't like spending money that much.
Who does?
So, but the guy who trained me, my very good diving buddy, he was a sort of a test diver for one of the major rebreather manufacturers. So he got a special deal, and he trained me, and we got going that way.
Yeah, so, you dive on an AP system?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. Have you always dived on an AP system?
Yep, I've used the same rebreather since 2005.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, it's like your favorite broom, though, because, I've renewed everything, basically, except the sort of the manifold probably is the only
You're talking about Trigger's broom.
Yeah, that's right. So when you renew the pole and you renew the head, but still your favorite broom.
It is.
And so it's like that for me. So I've renewed everything, but honestly, it's been the most brilliant rebreather I have. I'm not sponsored in any way by AP,
No.
but it's never put a foot wrong for me in 20 years diving the
What
sea.
is the deciding factor when it comes to? Because I've often thought about that, and Gemma and I have both done tri dives on a AP rebreather, and we both really enjoyed it, didn't we? You know,
Yeah, it was a good
and
experience. Yeah.
there's so many different types now, isn't there? There's the sort
With
of
hybrid ones, isn't there?
hybrid ones.
Yeah.
There's automatic. There's manual, chest mounted, back mounted, side mounted, and there's so many different types. If you are a open circuit diver and you're thinking about going into that, what is the deciding factors of what brand to go with? Is there like on a high level basis, is there anything particular where do you start making that
No, I
decision?
mean, I went and bought the AP just because at that time AP were about the only one where their rebreather had entered the market.
Yeah.
Back in the day, dive boats at Scapa Flow were just filled with yellow boxes, the AP rebreather. And it was only after a good number of years had passed that other rebreathers started to come
Yeah.
into the market. And they're all so good now.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't know how to choose another rebreather just now. I've seen them all. All my buddies dive a huge variety of them all, and they all think their one's the best. But I just stick with what I know, being a canny Scot again.
It's almost a bit like the EV market, isn't it now? Where, go back, I don't know, several years ago, it was the biggest name out there on EVs was Tesla. And now there's all these other different brands now. And it's like, so which one do you go for? Most of us will probably stick with the combustion engine and we'll just stick with that. Now we're thinking, oh, maybe we'll go for this one or that one. And you're right, there's so many different
Yeah.
options and things. It's very, even at the Go Dive show, there were several brands there. And, I was looking at something online about the Sidewinder 2, Kiss's new rebreather, and that looks good. But you look at other ones and APs. I like the AP system,
Mhm.
and there's a lot to be said about the rebreathers. And
Yeah, I mean, I just stuck with the AP because I've dived it for so long. I know it
yeah,
intimately. I can tell when there's anything that's needing tweaked. And the thought at my age of going back and retraining with another agency and choosing which rebreather to get out of all that's out there in the market, I just wouldn't know where to start, frankly. And there's
yeah.
also the cost. I mean, they're so expensive now.
Do you mind me asking how old are you, Rod?
I'm 66 now.
Oh yeah, and you're still doing deep stuff?
Not as deep as I did. I mean,
No,
but I always thought that 55 would be my limit for deeper diving. But you get to 55, I kept myself fit all my life,
yeah.
and it's just naturally I'm able to keep on doing it. So I would still dive quite happily 60 or 70 meters, but
Mm.
I wouldn't go beyond that now unless it was really special.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And you touched on something, that we talk about on the podcast about keeping yourself fit for
Yeah,
diving,
absolutely.
because, we're both very active and know how important, it is, even if you're not a diver for your future, but for, divers in particular, we do say, it is important. So
It is. If you want to have a vigorous diving career, keep yourself fit because there'll be a time that it happens where you've been dropped in the wrong place beside the buoy in the downline to the wreck, and you've been dropped slightly down current of the buoy line, and you've got to swim to that buoy line, get hold of it. And if you're not fit, I've seen guys just completely unable to get themselves to the line and just have that burst of speed and get there and get in control of the whole situation.
yeah.
I do think that's an element that gets forgotten about, though, and I think there's a lot of you see it at the waterside sometimes, um, and you think, you know, at that age, I'm talking about men of a certain age, where fitness does get harder, and keeping the weight off gets harder, and things like that, and you think, you know, I think the fitness side does get forgotten about. It's easy to do checks and checklists and things like that to make sure your equipment is right. But I think when you're doing technical diving, fitness is even more crucial than probably recreational diving.
I think so. Everybody thinks it's nice and easy. You're just doing a lovely frog kick, and it's all tranquil. But then the times will come where the tide turns, and I don't know if you've been in the Sound of Mull. You got a big tide there on the Hispania wreck, and to fight against that and get your way back to the line to ascend is really important. And if you can't do it, you're away. You're drifting, and then in a big deco, we'll drift a mile and a half. So you're better to come up the line if you can.
Yeah.
So I think fitness is really important. So I've kept myself fit all my life, and I'll continue to do so.
Yeah, that's good. So just going back to the early days, what made you go into wreck diving rather than cave diving or marine life diving? Because we always find that different divers we talk to, they have specifics that they tend to focus on.
Well, for me, it was just identifying my first wreck and then finding the history. And I've always, if you read any of my books, you'll see I'm really quite heavy in the history. So I've always enjoyed that sort of stuff. I mean, cave diving is just wet rock. So that
oh, you're not the first to say
that. No. You can't have a lot of cave diver buddies, but
just one wet rock looks like another wet rock.
Yeah, I know.
I've heard that one.
Yeah, I'm not big on that. And then fish and underwater plants, kelp and all that. Well, after a few years of looking at that tires as well. So I just like the adventure, the mystery, the romance of shipwrecks and shipwreck diving.
Yeah.
Do you know what cave divers say to wreck divers?
Oh.
One piece of rust looks like another piece of rust.
Foolish cave divers. No.
So it was that first wreck that you identified and got the history and the story that then got you on that road.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So what made you write a book?
Well, I started going up to Scapa Flow because, to my eternal shame, when I first started diving, I didn't know, because there was no internet then. I didn't know the German fleet was at Scapa Flow.
I thought the internet's always been around.
No. There was a time back then. And imagine my surprise when I learned the German fleet was at Scapa Flow. So I was like, why is that? So I bought a few books. That's fascinating. So my buddy and I, we towed my little squidgy, my 5-meter inflatable, up to Scapa Flow. None of the wrecks were buoyed then. There was no information about them. There was no books, no nothing.
When is this?
That was 1982.
Wow.
So the salvaging had just stopped in 78. And adventurous divers were starting to go up there, because now once they stopped blowing the things up, it was safe to go diving. So we tow my squidgy up to Scapa Flow with my battered old multicolored Renault 14, and we had to get an Admiralty chart and work out a bearing to land points. You know how to do dead reckoning and all that.
Right.
So take triangular bearings on 3 land points, then drive out the middle of Scapa Flow with your sighting compass, and then get that's 210. So, and we would just get into the approximate area.
Wow.
And then we didn't have an echo sounder because it was different then. So we put down our little grapple and then just mow the lawn until we actually snagged ourselves a wreck.
Something.
Wow.
So even then, there was no information about what these individual ships was. So you had to go down, and then there was nothing to say. Is it a battleship? Is it upside down? Or is it
and you didn't
cruiser?
know how deep you were either at this stage.
Well, we kind of knew, because then you used to do that 1 meter, 2 meter. You could work out from your line how much depth you're going into. So it was that rudimentary at the time. And of course, so after, I started going back each year to Scapa Flow and getting more and more information. And then, so I was a lawyer, but I was probably a bit of a reluctant lawyer, and I wanted to do something else and escape from being a lawyer. So I came up with this brainwave one night at 2 o'clock in the morning, scared the living daylights out of my wife. And that was my eureka moment. I'm going to write a book about diving. And didn't know anything about it, but I was given 6 months to research and write the book and get all the paintings created. And I had no idea what I was doing. So I just signed the contract and then realized the enormity of what I'd actually done. But we got there in the end, and the book came out, and I never thought I'd write that one book. And here we are 14 books later.
So this book, what was the name of the first book?
Dive Scapa Flow.
Dive Scapa.
Yeah. So were you quite the only divers that had pioneered to, you know, research and get down to these wrecks at that time?
No. There were a couple of hard boats starting to take divers out. John Thornton, who runs the Karen at Scapa Flow, he was, I think, the second of the hard boat operators to take them out. And the first was a guy called Snipe Miller, lovely skipper, very Scottish. So he took pity on me and my buddy being rampant Scotsmen, and we'd give him a bottle of whiskey, and then so he would give us lots of information because he'd been researching them. And if he had, I remember vividly, he had the Huddersfield BSAC up on a dive trip, and he said to us, "Just follow me out in your little squidgy boat, and I'll shot one of the wrecks on the way. And by the way, it's the Dresden." So he took us out, put a shot down the Dresden, and then he would take his divers away to dive on one of the other wrecks. So just started working it out like that, you know. And then we got the ship's plans. That was really helpful. And just started amassing all this information.
Yeah. And then at this time, were you on recreational open circuit?
Yeah, I mean, when I started off, it was a wetsuit days, so it was wetsuit and a ABLJ. Yeah, I know, it was really cold. I mean, after a few years, I got, you know, my first dry suit and a very dodgy.
You're tough.
Well, hard, made of granite. So I got a dry suit from offshore, one of the Poseidon uni suits, in a dodgy exchange for something else. And there was no dry suit courses then, so it was a case of just putting it on and working out how it actually worked.
I love that though, isn't it? Because we almost get, you know, spoon fed with diving these days, don't we? There's a course, you know, Paddy got a course for just about everything, haven't they? You know, and when you talk to people like yourselves and, you know, Brent Hudson and John Routley and others and Lee Bishops of the world, and you explain about diving, you know, back 20, 30 years ago.
Amazing.
And courses we just put them on and jumped in and things like that. And honestly, it's just like, it reminds us, for us who came later, just how, you know, how much you paved the way for people like us to go diving afterwards.
I vividly remember the first dry suit dive I had in my new Poseidon uni suit with a aluminium, it would be an Ali 80 or something like that, cylinder in my back. And I didn't know how much weight to take. So it was the Port Napier just off Skye. I don't know if you know the wreck. It's only about 24 meters of water, 22 meters of water. And so I was a bit light going down, but I just pulled myself down. Of course, I breathed through my Ali 80 and it got more and more buoyant, which I wasn't really anticipating that extent. So the combination of that with it was an 8mm neoprene dry suit from offshore. I mean, I was hugely buoyant by the time I got there. So I got to the downline to come up, and it was a case of I was upside down the whole time, just let myself feed myself back up the line. So you live and learn.
It's amazing. Yeah. And you know, it just must be amazing for you to view how diving has evolved over all these years when you first started to where we are now.
Yeah, I mean, it's much more regulated. People are much better trained. I think it's much safer as well.
Yeah.
But back in those days, we were sort of crash test dummies, you know, in a way. And you know, technical diving hadn't really entered it, because we would just have a little Seiko or a Casio dive watch. Yeah. So you'd be on the surface, right, boys? We memorized all our no stop times for air. So it's 25 at 25, 25 minutes at 25 meters was your no stop time, and you dare not go beyond that, because we didn't know what would happen if you went into deco. So you would set, okay, boys, let's go. We're down 25 minutes, time to come up. And we knew we could actually basically come up slowly.
Well, the US Navy had done a lot of tests, hadn't they? And they come up with the tables and
the US Navy tables.
You know, put people through it, and you know, some of them made it and some of it didn't.
Yeah, they were quite aggressive.
Yeah. I was just looking at your so your first book, the Scapa book,
Yeah,
been first published in 1990
yeah.
and 5 editions. So it's been a really popular book.
It has. When it first came out, there was absolutely no information at Scapa Flow, and again, I don't know if you've been to Scapa Flow recently, but
Not
there's
yet,
only
no.
three or four dive boats now working all the time up there. Back then, because it was such an amazing thing, there were 12 hard boats with 12 divers
Wow.
every
Right.
week from April through to October. So there was lots and lots of divers going there. It was the mecca for wreck diving in the UK. So, I would go into one of the local pubs at night, and there'd be groups of 12 divers from all these places sitting around with my book, reading it. And I would just quietly go at the bar and have a pint of Guinness and sit there, and nobody knew who I was. But, the book sold really well in the early years because the folk of Orkney were really interested in seeing what was under the water as well. But diving in Scapa Flow is still amazing, but it's tailed off a bit now. So
Yeah, definitely not that sort of numbers up
no,
there.
no, no. Yeah, that's right. Well, people now, of course, it's cheaper to go to the Red Sea, something
Yeah.
like that, to look at fish and
Do you
underwater
think that's
plants.
what's changed it? Do you think that's because, like, I know with flights to say places like Malta and that, you can get
Yeah,
flights to Malta, I think are about £80
yeah, yeah,
now, which is pretty cheap. That costs more for me to drive to Stony Cove and back today.
yeah.
So do you think that's what's changed it and why there isn't so many people going up there?
I think so. Because and it's further away than going to Malta, really. If you're living
Yeah.
in the deep south of England, south of the wall, that's
But
Hadrian's
Scapa
Wall.
Flow, that's as you say, that's the mecca place to go.
Yeah, it is, and you must go if you're a diver. You must go and see it because the history is immense. The battleships are still there's 3 battleships, German battleships from World War One, upside down. They're still ultra amazing. But there's 4 cruisers, and they're more lightly built, and they're all on their side. And ships aren't they're not designed for stresses of being on their side.
Mm.
So they are collapsing more and more now. But it does open up other parts of the ships that we couldn't see back in the day.
Yeah, and also photography. I saw something just this morning. Somebody had shared on social media of the Thistlegorm.
Mhm.
I did the Thistlegorm, blimey, 8 years ago now, and with my little GoPro, and I thought I took some decent video when I was diving there. Honestly, I saw this morning, and it was so clear. And it must have been, I don't know what they took it with, but it was obviously something with 4K,
Mhm.
at least 4K. And honestly, the clarity of of the detail,
Yeah,
amazing. And yeah, I think diving with underwater photography today just brings it all alive because we've got this modern technology of recording stuff.
yeah. And I mean, the really advanced photographers, or wreck diving photographers that I know, they'll devote, for example, in Truk Lagoon, a whole dive to get in one photograph of
Yeah.
the engine room. And they put all these slave lights all the way around the engine room. And then when the flash of their camera goes, speed of light, all the other slaves go and they light up the whole engine room.
Yeah.
It's incredible what's been done just
I
now.
think that is it. That is. Do you follow Becky Kagan Scott? She's one of our previous guests,
Yes,
and
I do.
she dived a lot of the wrecks in the Great Lakes,
Mhm.
and she had taken a photo. I can't remember what wreck it was. You had, for anyone's listening, to go back and look at her social media, and there's a wreck that she took a picture of inside, and it's very ornate decoration in the wreck, like a ballroom and everything. And the water was very clear, deep. I think it was about like 80 meters deep or something like that.
Mhm.
Very cold as well, which is probably why the wreck was so well preserved. And she'd lit, like backlit with another light, and then came out and was recorded looking in with the room being backlit, and honestly it's like a photograph, and
Yeah.
you to look, you think, well, is that actually underwater?
Yeah, you can imagine yourself
Amazing.
there. Yeah.
Absolutely
She
amazing.
is an extremely gifted photographer. I've seen a lot of her stuff, and it's just stunning what she does. But that's in the Great Lakes in Canada, and it is extremely cold, and it preserves the wood. So these are all wooden ships that she's photographing out there. Fantastic stuff.
And Scapa can be quite dark, isn't it? Some of the waters there can be quite dark.
It can be. I mean, we used to consider it deep, dark, and dangerous, but it's not really. The average visibility would be 50 feet, so 15 meters would be average visibility. So you don't need a torch in the bottom usually. You get some days during the plankton bloom in May and September when it is darker. What we call it, the water's thicker because there's more life in it. But if you're out with those times, you can get amazing visibility.
Yes, I know some of our previous guests when they've dived off top of Ireland there. What's the name? Rings a bell.
Marlin Head.
Marlin Head, yeah.
Yeah.
And the visibility, some of them, like I think was it James?
Yeah, they said it was gin clear, didn't they?
Yeah, it is. You get 50-meter visibility. 50-meter visibility is average there. I've been there a few times, and it's stunning.
Yeah.
There's the wreck, the Empire Heritage, is the famous one with all the Sherman tanks. It was carrying about 40 or 50 Sherman tanks, and they're now scattered over the seabed in the collapsed wreck. And I remember going down the line in 50-meter viz and just seeing a good chunk of the ship with all these Sherman tanks lying on the seabed.
That must be such a feeling to see that. Yeah.
Well, I just remember getting down in amongst them all and being surprised because as a kid you grew up seeing John Wayne in black and white with a broken leg sitting on the front of a Sherman tank, settle up. But when you actually see them, they're really quite small. They're not that big, you know.
Yeah. So obviously you've dived a lot around Scotland and the UK coastline. So what made you sort of extend out to further afield around the world?
So after the book came out in 1990, I was approached by a couple of guys who were forming an underwater film company, and they wanted to start doing underwater videos. And would I get involved? And they wanted to do one about Scapa Flow. So we actually did a shoot up in Scapa Flow, huge expense, and produced this video about Dive Scapa Flow. And that sold really well because Scapa was still hugely popular then. So then the TV director said after that, right, Rod, where are we going after this? What's the next one? I said, well, the greatest place for shipwreck diving in the world is Truk Lagoon. And that sold. So we actually, the next film we did was out in Truk Lagoon in the middle of the Pacific.
Wow.
Sort of ghost ships of the Japanese fleet or something like that. And then we went to Palau as well. So that was 1990. We went out and did all those as well.
Yeah. So how did you, how was that in your perspective compared to Scapa Flow, going to see those kind of wrecks?
Well, I dived in the Red Sea by that stage, so I kind of knew what warm water diving was like. It was still a bit of a shock, and you know, I was the guy swimming around all the wrecks. So I got to see the wrecks in Truk Lagoon, but I was being filmed all the time, so it was a little bit difficult. But I was still blown away by the whole thing. I didn't know that you could get 200-foot visibility and see huge chunks of any of these amazing shipwrecks. And I knew Cousteau had been out in the late 60s, out to Truk Lagoon. And so that really got me going about shipwrecks.
So were you always interested in history, or did that come later?
I think it stems back to just starting to find out the history of wrecks that we found. So we have that, you know, there's 18,000 shipwrecks around Scotland. There must be 60,000 around England or something like that. And we've been very privileged to have a section of coast up here and around Aberdeen, you know, 150 miles where there's lots of shipwrecks, but there've been no divers in the past really looking at them in any depth. So as my interest in shipwrecks developed, I started going out and actively speaking to fishermen, you know, and getting, the marks, where did you snag your nets? Oh, there's a mark, I had a foul there, and I'll go and have a look at you and see if I can get your net back for you. You know, so you get the position, you go out and you start finding all these things. So it's a story that I didn't know, but in about 1939-40, as World War II started, the convoy route was set up from London all the way up the east coast of the UK, round past Orkney. And it's called the Battle of the East Coast. People haven't heard about it. So this convoy route was marked by buoys every half a mile. It was half a mile wide. It's called the Swept Channel. It was swept every day for mines. And on the seaward side, towards Norway side, there was a mine barrier which was 20 to 50 miles wide with 100,000 mines sewn up all the way from London. It went up to Fraserburgh first in the northeast, and then it went up to Orkney. So all the shipping was traveling up and down in this swept channel so imagine ships coming from the Empire or from Canada or America with war supplies come across the Atlantic. Then they had to go down this swept channel all the way to Newcastle and London and all that. All the time they were under attack from German bombers in Norway because Germany had overrun Norway.
Yeah.
So that's where the majority of our wrecks come from. They've been bombed by German bombers from Norway.
Wow.
All in the swept channel. So we started actively looking the swept channel, and that's when I found my first wreck that had never been found or never been dived before. And that was amazing, swimming into a bridge, which everything was still there, you know. Because I grew up where every single porthole and every shipwreck I'd seen had been removed by the generation of divers that went before us. So we were now into virgin shipwrecks 5-10 miles offshore. And we've had 20, 30 years of looking at all these things.
That must be incredible. Yeah.
It is.
When you find a shipwreck like that, and you've dived it, do you then register its location? What do you do?
Yeah, I tried to. I started getting in touch with our MOD and the Department of Transport and say, look, we found this shipwreck. We've identified it as the SS Greenon. There'll be relatives of the crew that died in this around. Do you want me to do anything? And the MOD just say, no, there are so many shipwrecks that were sunk in the wars. We can't possibly get involved in tracing relatives and all that sort of stuff. So you let the hydrographic department know. You could report that you found this wreck. But then you come up against the whole thing that if you start reporting all these wrecks, then and giving precise positions, then you get squads of divers coming in, and the wrecks start to get, things taken off them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of made the view that no, I wasn't going to give precise coordinates for the wrecks we were finding. I'll write about them in my books so the families know what happened, but I just didn't want to contribute to the sort of the pillage of our wrecks.
Tricky, isn't it? Because I can think of a few divers who dive with a crowbar, and although you want to do the right thing, but you also want to protect them.
That's right. So I mean, in the generation of divers before me, for example, the DESECRATE manual had a chapter on how to remove a porthole. It was just the done thing.
The biggest crowbar that you can buy.
Yeah, and how to
split
the nuts and drive off the nuts and all that. So that was in the DESECRATE manual. You were being trained how to do that.
I love that.
It's very non-PC now. So we just started.
Oh, have they removed it by any chance?
Yeah, they have. But I've still got the evidence. So we just started finding all these shipwrecks where every single porthole was in place. Telegraphs are there, compasses, the whole shooting match.
That's the one that Paddy didn't have a course on how to remove a porthole.
I know. And we bought a wreck off Fraserburgh. The RMS Remera is a White Star liner, and it was sunk in World War II. And it's still got these huge, big non-ferrous props on it, beautiful, massive, liner engine on it. And we bought it just to preserve it. So people up here in the Northeast know that we own it. We're not stopping people diving it, but we don't want people lifting things off it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, the legislation has recently changed on this as well, hasn't it?
I haven't got my mind around this yet. But
what do you think about that? About this, the new changes coming out and the new legislation on wrecks?
Well, or not every, but most large cargo ships in World War II would have a DEMS gun, DEMS, Defensively Equipped Merchant Ship Gun, at the stern, and would have a couple of Royal Navy gunners to man the gun. And the idea was that if a U-boat was trying to attack on the surface, that this gun on a big ship was much more stable, much more accurate. It could fire on the U-boat while the ship used its speed to outrun the U-boat. So most merchant ships will have a DEMS gun at the stern. So that makes them fall within this new legislation at the moment.
Right.
I haven't looked into it in any great depth because I've been busy, but so I think there's issues arising about all this. And I also thought it was strange that the lives of Royal Navy personnel were valued more highly than the lives of all these poor crew that died on these shipwrecks. I just don't know. But back in the day, of course, the Ministry of Defence was selling the salvage rights to Royal Navy ships. So the British battleship Vanguard that blew up at anchor in Scapa Flow in World War I, the MOD sold the salvage rights, and it was blown up in Scapa Flow in the 1970s, despite there being 1,000 crew killed.
Really?
In the magazine explosion. Yeah, happened all the time.
Wow.
So things have changed since then. Now it's, the MOD are trying to protect.
What, and 1,000 people went down with that, and they still sold the salvage rights to it?
Yep. Dougal
But they
Campbell,
didn't do it with Royal Oak.
No, the propellers were lifted off that, back in the day because they were so valuable. But the Royal Oak there was an exclusion order put up around the Royal Oak. But the Vanguard, so the Royal Oak's World War II, the Vanguard is World War I. And they sold the salvage rights. And Dougal Campbell, who salvaged the German World War I wrecks, blew all the armor belt off them, he salvaged the Vanguard in the 70s.
But what was the distinction between why the MOD would sell the salvage rights to one ship but not the other? I don't understand that.
Don't know. Get one of the MOD guys on your podcast.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
There you
But
go.
do you know what I mean? Why protect only one ship? If you're going to protect them, protect the lot.
One rule fits all.
Absolutely.
It seems strange.
And of course, that we can maybe talk about this later if you want, but that leads on to the whole thing about salvage of all of our shipwrecks, Royal Navy shipwrecks around the world at the moment.
Well, you lifted I was looking on the website as well about is that the SS Creemore? Is that
Creemure?
right?
Yeah.
Creemore?
Creemure, Creemuir.
And you lifted the bell from that and brought that back.
Yeah.
So tell us about that. What's the story with that one?
Well, the Creemure, I'd always known about it, or for a long time, because it's marked in the charts, but it's 15 miles offshore into the North Sea, and it's in 70 meters, which was always kind of deep for us. And that far offshore, VHF contact with the land if something went wrong was difficult back in the day.
And was it known, or did you discover it?
The fishermen knew about it.
Okay.
I got the mark from a fisherman about it. So as things progressed in about 2012, I set up a dive for me and my mates to go out and have a look at this thing. It was just another wreck dive. So we went out, did the dive in it, and confirmed it was the Creemure. And dives didn't go very well because it was so dark and like 5 foot viz, and somebody swam into a room without knowing they were in a room and tried to come up a bit and bang their head in the roof of the room. It's one of those things. So I thought nothing more about it, but I put out a post on my blog to say we dived the SS Creemure today, 4,000 ton shipwreck, and I thought nothing more about it. But then about 3 months later, I got this email, all in capitals and bright red, and it was obviously somebody didn't know about email. It was just coming in. So he said, "Dear Mr. McDonald, my name is Noel Blacklock. I was the radio officer on the SS Creemure when it was sunk on Armistice Day 1940. I see you've been diving my old ship. I'd very much like to hear about it." So of course I was blown away by that. And we got in touch, and he sent me all his Royal Navy statements that he gave at the time of the sinking. And he said, "I'm coming up to see you, and I'm going to fly up with my wife. I'm 91. And I said, well, I'll pick you up from Aberdeen Airport, but how will I recognise you? And he said, oh, we'll be the only two people in wheelchairs. And I thought, well, look, Noel, with the best of intention, I've got a 4x4. Will you be able to get up into it? And he said, oh, no problem at all, Mr. McDonald. Delightful old gentleman type. So I turned up at Aberdeen Airport, and here's the BA flight from London arrived, and these two lovely old people getting wheeled out by the BA staff. And I went along and said, no, Blacklock. He said, yes, there's Mr. McDonald. And he stood bolt upright. Shook my hand, lovely to meet you. We don't really need these wheelchairs. It just makes traveling so much easier. And the BA staff, you can just see him going, So anyway, so I took him down to Stonehaven, and I showed him where, I could point out, and that's where you were when his ship was sunk. And I took him to where he had been taken ashore in Aberdeen, the Seamen's Mission. So the story about the Creamier was he was the radio officer. So all the Royal Navy, the cargo ships would have a Royal Navy radio officer as well as Deems gunners, so that radio communication between the ships was according to a set pattern. They could all understand each other, and there was no mix-ups. So he'd just come off ship. He'd gone down to the mess, and he was just eating his tea, and he heard the drone of an aircraft, and he identified it as not one of ours, as it were. He knew it was a German plane. And just then, there was this almighty bang. The lights went out. He was thrown to the ground. He ran up to his cabin, grabbed his life preserver, that belt thing. He put it on upside down in his panic. And he went up a gangway to the back of the superstructure. So it was an amidship superstructure. Then there was two aft holds, and then there was the poop, the stern castle, as it were, with the Deems gun on it. And he just got out to the back of the superstructure, and he said the whole of the back of the ship was already underwater, and all the water was infilling the two stern holds, and the gun was just poking its barrel out of the water. And he was just sort of going, oh my, what did I do now? When something hit him in the back of the head, he was knocked unconscious. And I don't know if you've ever been knocked unconscious, but you don't know you've been knocked unconscious. And he just suddenly came to. He was underwater in the water with a ship just going down beside him. So his life preserver popped him up the surface, and he looked up, and the ship was vertical, sinking by the stern. And he just saw the forecastle with a bell. He remembered seeing the bell on the forecastle going down beside him. So he swam away from the wreck to try and not be pulled down by the suction. And he was in the water for 45 minutes. I don't know how he survived, because I've been in that water with a dry suit. It's cold. And this was in Armistice Day, so it was November 1940.
Right.
So after 45 minutes, he was about gone, and this raft came past, and they pulled him into the raft, and he remembered slithering, all covered in oil, in amongst the feet of the three men that were in this raft. So they're in the raft for another 2 hours, and then this Dutch freighter, extreme danger themselves, came along, stopped, and picked them up, and took them aboard. And they took them up to Aberdeen, and he got taken into the Seamen's Mission. And I remember he said that he felt so bad because he was covered in oil, and he had great fondness for the people of Aberdeen because it was lovely white linen sheets, and they put them in, dried them off, put them into the bed. He knew he was making the bed sheets all oily and dirty, and they gave him cigarettes, and they were just lovely. It's such fondness for Aberdeen folk. So anyway, that was it. He just went on with the war, got another posting to another ship. And then lo and behold, all these years later, in 2012, this tall, thin guy from Aberdeen is posted, I've just been diving on your ship. So we did what we could, and I posted a bit more about it. And then this other lady got in touch with me from Northern Ireland. And her father had died in 1963 when she was 16. And he'd been a survivor from the Creamier. So that generation never spoke about the war. He never told them stories. And she was so young, just under 16, she never asked about, what did you do in the war, Dad? And so she never knew. So she read my book, The Darkness Below, because I've got a chapter about this, about the Creamier. So she said, what can you tell me about this ship? So I gave her the whole story. I said, better than that, I can put you in touch with the last living survivor Noel Blacklock, the radio officer. So the two of them got in touch, became great friends. And it turned out that her father was one of the 3 men in the raft that had pulled Noel Blacklock out of the water in 1940.
That's incredible.
So they became, so I'm digressing about the bells. Anyway, they became great friends. So fast forward 2 or 3 years, and we're doing another dive in much better visibility. And we get ourselves up to the forecastle. And we'd had a bottom time of 25 minutes. I'd called the dive, right, boys, we're going up. And one of the guys was loitering around the forecastle. And he started I was 15 meters up the line by this stage, and he was diving with somebody else. And he started waving up to me, Rod, making very strange signals. And I said, no, come up. We've got to go now. The tide's turned. Let's go. So he came up and he got onto the boat and he said, Rod, I found the bell. And I said, there's only one place this bell is going, and it's going to the last living survivor. So he agreed. So we went back the following week, and I put the shot 12 feet away from the bell in the forecastle, recovered the bell, just a quick 15-minute dive on the bottom. And then, so we cleaned it up. And then about 6 months later, I phoned up Noel and said, Noel, it's Rod here. I'm going to be down in Bedford, your neck of the woods, next Saturday. I've got something that might be of interest to you. Do you want me to, can I come along and see you? Oh, delighted to see you, Mr. Macdonald. So anyway, we drove down, set off at 7 o'clock in the morning from Aberdeen, driving down the hill, past Hadrian's Wall, all the way down to just north of London. It's downhill all the way.
Yes.
And so I switched off the engine, I just freewheeled.
Save that money.
So we, ding dong, oh, Mr. Macdonald, delighted to see you. So we go in, would you like a cup of my nettle tea? Absolutely fine. Show me his medals. And I said, I've got something for you, Noel. And so I went out to my car. We hadn't told him that we were taking the bell down. Came in, had a cover over it. I pulled this off, and this is for you. Can you imagine the effect on him and his wife when he last saw that in 1940 on the bow of the Creamier as it was sinking? So he kept it. He just died 4 or 5 years ago. So the family are now giving the bell back to us because the local museum here is going to have a display about the whole story about the sinking of the Creamier, and the bell's going to be in the museum here. And it's a lovely story, I think.
It's good. It's going to be in the museum for for public viewing and what have you. And that's what an amazing story.
Yeah. But it just also shows the way diving grows history as well and exposes that history as well. It's just incredible.
I had another one with another sort of virgin wreck we dived just north of Stonehaven, where I loosely identified it as the Norwood. And then lo and behold, the following weekend in the local newspaper in Aberdeen, the headline was sinking of local ship remembered, SS Norwood. And then this lady had written in to the letters section saying that her father had been lost in the Norwood at the end of World War I, and how her mother had never believed that he was actually lost, and she left the door open for 3 years after the war. It was very common in Scotland to do that, thinking that he would walk in. He never did. So she got in touch. Anything you can tell me about it? So I actually could send her. She didn't know where it was. It was lost without trace, and I could send a copy of the Admiralty chart with X marks the spot to her. And I got a lovely letter back saying that just gave her a bit of closure.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, isn't it? For a lot of these families, and we were born at a time where we've never experienced that of what the amount of loss that was going on during those 5-6 years. Thousands of people were affected by it. And, you bring a little bit of closure to a few people. And, it must be amazing. When I was listening to you talking, it was, what that must have been like, surviving a sinking like that, and being, coming around in the water and seeing your ship that you was on just only 5 minutes ago, happily going along, or just being there, and now it's going down by the stern. That must be quite quite an experience I don't think you ever quite get over.
You're right. We can't conceive what it's like.
Can't imagine.
You know.
No.
But another one, the British battleship HMS Prince of Wales, so is out in the South China Sea.
Yeah.
So I was taken along on a military trip in 2001 as a sort of SME, a subject matter
Which was
expert.
quite a new ship when that was sunk as well, wasn't it?
That's exactly right. It was Churchill's brand new and most favourite battleship. It took Churchill across the Atlantic to the.
But they didn't understand they sent the two, what was it, Prince of Wales and another ship, wasn't it?
The
that went
Repulse.
out, Repulse,
Yeah.
and they didn't understand the strength of air power over a battleship.
Partly that so what happened? The squadron was meant to have an aircraft carrier, HMS Indomitable.
Yeah.
So it would have its own fleet air cover, because we knew that capitalist ships were exposed at the time to air cover, but nobody had really seen a mass attack by 85 Japanese torpedo and dive bombers. But HMS Indomitable, the aircraft carrier, ran aground to Jamaica en route to Singapore. And then the Japanese attack on Malaya was so intense that they destroyed all the RAF bases in the north of Malaya, which were to be giving land-based fighter cover. So just no plan survives contact with the enemy. And there were lots of air cover was meant to have been around, but wasn't available. But there was a squadron of British fighters kept on the ground at Singapore, earmarked for fleet air defence. But the Navy, being the Navy, thought they could fight their way out of it, and they didn't realise that the Japanese torpedo bombers were long range, and that they could get that far down the Malayan Peninsula. But the point I was going to make was that I've dealt with quite a few survivors or crew from HMS Prince of Wales. They've all passed now, but after the military trip in 2001, I got the wrecks of the Prince of Wales and Repulse illustrated. And I sent prints of the Prince of Wales to the secretary of the Prince of Wales Survivors Association, Ken Burns. And he phoned me up after that, and he said it was utterly incredible because when he opened up the image of the wreck that I'd sent him, he could point to it was one of the secondary turrets that he was in and say, that's where I was serving. He could show his wife where he was serving. And there's one of the torpedo holes is just right underneath where he was serving, and that's one of the torpedoes that did us in. And again, he said he and his wife just burst into tears when they saw it.
Yeah.
So it's giving all that sort of stuff back is what I like doing.
It's quite an interesting debate. I've been watching something recently, and they were talking about how over naval history and in the lead up to the Second World War, the Germans had the Tirpitz, the Bismarck, Eisenhower, and all these great big pocket battleships, and because Hitler wanted to have a bigger navy force than the Brits, because we had the biggest navy, and what a difference it might have been. Because all their resources and everything all went into having these ships and maintaining them, and all the tonnage going into these battleships and all that. And in fact, half the time they were just useless, because after Bismarck went down, the Tirpitz was sent up north and it was hidden away and wouldn't come out again.
It still had a paralyzing effect.
It did, and the same thing with us, where if they'd actually put more resources into having more U-boats and not had the battleships and had more U-boats, and what a difference the war might have been, because and it's the same for us. And when the Prince of Wales went out to Asia and then and then was sunk, all of a sudden it's like, hang on, we need more aircraft carriers and actually more submarines. That's what, why are we having battleships and things like that? Because actually they're so hard to protect.
The sinking of the Prince of Wales defines the end of the era of the battleship.
It did, yeah.
There've been various people have been saying for 15, 20 years before World War II that the era of the battleship was over, and it was the era of the aircraft carrier and air power projected at sea. but a lot of the old admirals still clung to the supremacy of the battleship.
Yeah.
The Prince of Wales going down, that was it. That was the end of the battleship.
And it is, and there's a lot of these leaders will all think, well, my ship's bigger than your ship, and that was all it was about. But actually, the people who actually understood battles and how, to win a war, those people weren't listened to, thank goodness, because people like Hitler, he had his way about it, and that's the way he was going to do it, and that was that. So we'll have these great big ships, and we'll build them up, and all that, and yeah, it's an interesting point, and. Yeah,
but as the years went past in the Pacific, the Americans brought together all their aircraft carriers as Task Force 58, and then by that stage, the battleships were supporting the aircraft carriers and doing the ring of steel around the aircraft carriers,
and they had so many,
tremendously effective as well.
Yeah, they had so many, didn't they? So you got a new book, the Bikini Atoll.
Yes, I have.
So let's talk about your new book. There it is.
It looks very dark.
Available in all new bookshops.
You can still see me. Yeah, Bikini Atoll. Yeah. Shipwrecks the nuclear test.
Have a look at this new book.
Yeah, Bikini Atoll. Shipwrecks the nuclear test. So it's just out 2 weeks ago. And I'm absolutely delighted with it. It's pen and sword that have done it, and it's just a fantastic production.
So tell us about the dive and about that, and what was the thinking about bringing out this book on the ships up there? Because there's other ones out there as well, isn't there?
There was one book from 1996 or something like that was brought out. So there's been nothing current. So I've been to lots of places like Truk and Palau and all that, and I'm often asked, by the local dive operators, we could really do with a book about the wrecks. So I wrote Dive Truk Lagoon, the Japanese WWII shipwrecks, and I hadn't really thought about doing that, but I was asked to do it. But there wasn't good hard information about Bikini, so it's the sort of pinnacle of wreck diving, I would say, and it's so remote. It just takes forever to get to. So I just brought this book out because I've had all the main wrecks illustrated there. So, and they're all labeled as well with points of interest now. So I think that should be a big help to wreck diving in Bikini.
Yeah. So
how
anybody
remote is it?
Sorry?
How remote is it?
It was chosen for the nuclear test because it was one of the remotest of the atoll islands. And it was away from any shipping routes. And Truk Lagoon was Japan's advanced naval base in World War II.
Yeah.
And Bikini's even further on from that. You go to Kwajalein Atoll, and then you get a boat for something like 30 hours or something like that from Kwajalein out to Bikini. So extremely remote, but they chose it because they were going to be setting off all these nuclear weapons. So the Operation Crossroads that I've written about, those shipwrecks, was 2 nuclear weapons. But after that, they exploded about another 24 weapons.
The big one was the hydrogen one, wasn't it?
That's exactly right.
Which they didn't realise how big that was going to be until that went off.
I think that was called the Castle Bravo test, and they used an atomic weapon to actually trigger the hydrogen bomb.
Yeah.
And I think that was the biggest one that's ever been. I think I'm not quite sure on that.
Is that the one where the Saratoga is standing upright?
No, the Saratoga is not standing upright. It was lifted.
It was lifted up.
Yeah. So there are 2 nuclear tests in Operation Crossroads. The first was an air burst, so they exploded the bomb in the air, 518 feet above the fleet, to see what effect an air burst would have on all the finest ships of the Navy, battleships, aircraft carriers. The Saratoga was one. And they were 2,000 feet off with the bomb, so it didn't actually do as much damage as they thought. But then they did a underwater burst for the test, Baker, the second test. So the lagoon was 180 feet deep, and they set this one off 90 feet, exactly at the midpoint in the water column, so the fireball would hit the seabed and the surface at exactly the same time.
Wow.
And nobody knew what would happen. There was this massive dome came up.
There's a video of it, isn't there?
Yeah. So the Saratoga wasn't stood upright, but she was lifted. I mean, she's a massive ship lifted up by this 98-foot high tsunami wave that came past. And they thought that Arkansas, one of the battleships, was lifted up, but it's been shown now it wasn't.
It weren't.
The displacement, it was too much. There was a big black mark in the water column of the mushroom cloud going up.
Yeah.
And they thought that was it standing upright, but no, it was just soot coming out of its smokestacks.
Was that the hydrogen one?
No, they were both implosion type bombs.
Uh,
Yeah, similar to the ones in Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
yeah.
Yeah, amazing to record that history and, you know, have it in a book that people can pick up and read.
I know. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
No,
so
because the Prince not it's the Prince Eugen, that was taken out, dragged out there as well, wasn't it?
Prince Eugen, was a cruiser, and she was listing, and she was towed away, and she was taken to Kwajalein Atoll, where they tried to clean her, but they couldn't get the radioactivity off her. And you know, the knowledge about radioactivity in those days was very poor, and sailors would try to clean the ships to get the radioactivity off just in their dungarees and with mops and buckets of soapy water, and they were all getting radiation, affected by the radiation, and they realized that they just couldn't clean these ships. So the Prince Eugen capsized. It's kind of the warm-up dive on the way to Bikini now. But there was lots of other ships that were towed away and sunk. You know, some were towed back to America and sunk as, you know, practice targets because they knew they couldn't keep them safe.
yeah, it's incredible. Yeah. So all this about shipwrecks, and then you've also dived whirlpools as well.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So the Corryvreckan Whirlpool, it's in the west coast of Scotland, and it's the third largest whirlpool in the world. It's the most terrifying place in the world to go to. And it's not just a single whirlpool, it's a whole area filled with whirlpools and eddies. The Royal Navy have declared it unnavigable. It's in this half-mile wide gulf called the Gulf of Scuba.
Wow.
It's unnavigable for the Royal Navy. And when the whirlpool's whirling, you can hear it 10 miles away. And there's been hundreds of ships and yachts get into trouble in the Gulf of Scuba.
So when we talk whirlpools, you can't literally journey through it, or at the certain times?
If you do it at slack water, you can go through it.
Where is it, did you say?
It's the Gulf of Scuba, Scarba. It's between the Isle of Jura and Isle of Scuba in the west coast of Scotland.
Okay.
Yeah. So what came about to make you want to dive a whirlpool?
Well, what it is, so it's really deep. It's 230 meters deep in the middle of the Gulf of Scuba. But there's this pink granite pinnacle comes right the way up, and the top of the pinnacle is about 100 foot wide. It's a circular top, and it's about 35 to 40 meters beneath the surface of the water. So you've got all the Atlantic coming from America, tries to flood through this half-mile wide gap, and it hits this granite pinnacle. And the water's pushed, it rises up, creates this huge standing wave. And then as it drops off, it creates this big depression. That's where all the whirlpools are. And they're different at different times of the tide.
Yeah.
But you can dive it at slack water, which is 10 minutes long. So
not long then.
No, I know. So Equinox, the BBC were wanting to film an Equinox program called Lethal Seas. You can still see it online, and they couldn't get a commercial diving set up to dive it because nobody was too stupid. But the TV producer phoned my buddy Ewan Rowell and said, "Could you put together a team to do it?" And Ewan's an ex-commercial diver. He said, "Yeah, we'll do it." So he phoned me up and said, "Do you want to dive the Corryvreckan Whirlpool?" "Oh, I'm not sure about that." He said, "Oh, I'll be fine."
Like a washing machine.
Yeah. So anyway, we put together a team of hardcore divers, and we went to the west coast of Scotland, met the TV producer. We did all the topside shoots of the night before in the local pub. They'd ushered all the locals to the far end of the pub, and great big lights. There was a coppin beaten table with a chart somewhere to, get told what to say and all that. Point to it was great. "Oh, you better not do that." So anyway, we we knew there was a big storm coming. It was a force 8 storm. So, you know, us lot thinking we're hardcore. If anything more than a force 5 on the East Coast and you're blown out if it's coming from the east.
We've got hairs on a chest. We can handle that.
Yeah, so we were convinced that the shoot would be off. So we stayed in the bar a little bit too long that night, and woke up slightly rusty the next morning. It was blowing an absolute gale, you know, the shutters. And I was still convinced that we wouldn't die. So we phoned the TV producer. I said, no, have your breakfast, come down to the harbour, it's on. Oh, okay, so we went down to the harbour, and it's still blowing a hoolie, as we say in Scotland. And so he said, load your stuff on, we're getting filmed. And I was still convinced it was going to be off. And then I just thought, the guy said, right, to the skipper, cast off and move out into the middle of the harbour. So he did the shoot, took the shot on that. And then I thought, he just wants to film the disappointment on our faces when the dive's cancelled. By this stage, we're all, I shouldn't have had that last pint. So anyway, it was on because the skipper reckoned he could get through the islands, you know, catching a lee here and there and get round. And it was going to settle just around slack water.
Wow.
So he did. He was very skillful, took us all the way around, and we turned into the Gulf of Scuba. The weather stopped, and all we could hear was the cries of the birds and the seagulls. And it was the most doom-laden place I've ever been in my life. If you could sum up the feeling of doom, that was the Gulf of Scuba.
That's what you want before you better go in for a dive.
Yeah, we're doomed. So so we got rigged up, and the skipper said, so the tides can be dropping off. I'm going to put you in when the tide is at 2.7 knots. So we're going to put a great big shot onto the top of the pinnacle with great big railway grips, you know, and all that. You've got to get hold of that shot line as you go past, because you'll be traveling at 2.7 knots, but the current will die off as you start to go down the line.
Right.
So, and then he said, you'll get 10 minutes on the top of the pinnacle, and then if you look around, you'll see all the little crabs. When they all disappear and sort of lock themselves away, they know the tide's the way to turn.
Wow.
Come up. So we dropped into the water, and you know, popped my head up, and you're motoring along towards this big pink Dan boy. So I grabbed it, swung round so the current streamed away, and just started going down the line, and got down to the top of the pinnacle, and it was fine down there. I think it must have changed at depth before it changed to the surface. And so we swam round the pinnacle about 40 meters, came back, and I remember just looking at all my buddies, 6 specks of humanity on the top of this pinnacle. And so me and one of my buddies that I was diving with, we went over at the side of the pinnacle, and there was a great big boulder, and we ducked underneath the boulder and dropped down to a little shelf, and I went to the edge of the pinnacle so I could look down 200 meters into the abyss, you know, that's where the book title came from. And I was diving open circuit then, and I remember my exhaust bubbles were coming out, and then they stopped going up to the surface. They just started hanging around in front of me. And then it was like somebody just threw a big switch. That's the tide, turn, boys. And you could feel the current just sort of going, you know, it's just changing to go in the other direction. And then my bubbles, when I breathed out, they started going over the edge of the pinnacle, down into the depth.
No way.
So yeah, so I said,
That's not good.
Time to go now. So we had to do a free ascent. There's no point in going back to line. We're just going to rip it off the top of the pinnacle. So pumped stuff in air into my dry suit, got my wings ready, put up a bag, a delayed deco bag and a reel, and we just came off over the abyss, as it were. And I remember it was feeling like 1,000 invisible hands clawing at your dry suit. You could feel the water being sucked down your dry suit.
Blimey.
And I've more and more gas in my wings, more my suit, and winching up as much as I could. And then after about 5 minutes, you were out in the whirlpool, and it was just a normal free drifting deco for about an hour or something like that.
Wow.
So that
what
was
an
fun.
Experience.
Never again.
So just the once then.
Yeah.
Well,
It's such a huge amount of water, isn't it? When that starts coming over, you got no chance.
No, you haven't. There's the first guy that went to dive it back in the very Heath Robinson days I was telling about before, and wetsuits and a Fenzi ABLJ. So he went to dive it, and he got the tide wrong because this was back in the late 70s. And he was just, being bold. So he got the tide wrong, and he started being carried by the down currents over the side of the pinnacle.
Wow.
And he was bumbling his way down. So he put as much gas as he could into his ABLJ, into his wings, essentially, you'd call them now. And he kept on going down.
Yeah.
So he actually unclipped his weight belt and dropped his weights. And that's, you would know, that's just enough with your inflated wings that send you up like a rocket. But he didn't, and he kept on going down. And in air, he got to 70 plus meters.
What? And he's still after
going down the side before the down currents spat him out. And then he was away. And I don't know how he survived quite happily, but he's another never again. But
wow.
It was just like that back in the day, I guess.
Yeah.
But he must have gone up like a rocket after he dropped his weights and that spit him out.
Yeah, he'd have dumped the gas from his wings. He was in a wetsuit, so not as much buoyancy as a dry suit, I guess. And he wouldn't have been on deco, so he just did a no-stop ascent from 70 meters, I guess. But he's fine. It's fine.
I don't think we've spoken to anybody on the podcast that's been in a whirlpool or had that kind of experience. No. So that's a one-time experience by the sound of it.
Yeah.
So look it up. It's Lethal Seas Maelstrom, and you can see the story in there. It was good fun.
Yeah, I did watch a little clip this morning and thought, wow.
Oh, did you? Oh, very good.
Yes.
Very good.
Yeah, it kind of scares you watching it, thinking, Yeah.
So the guy who set it up, Ewan Rowell, he and I, when we got back to Aberdeen, he'd just come back from offshore. So he said to me, Rod, I need, he'd been your drive when you're offshore. So I need to have a pint. Take me for a pint. So we went to the grill on Union Street in Aberdeen, the bar, and we walked in there and we just ordered our pints. And the barman looked at you and said, I've just seen you on the telly. So this is a random barman in Aberdeen,
What's next for you? Because you've done, when you look at your books, that you got 14 books, so there's something there for everybody. Your Bikini Atoll, Truk Lagoon, Scapa Flow, Dive Palau, Dive into the Abyss, into the Darkness. You got something there for everybody. Out in Asia, what's next? Where do you go to next after all these dives that you've done?
Well, I mean,
where do you find the happiness and as Phil Short would say, where do you find the magic in it?
Well, for example, I'm going back to Palau at the end of May, and I'm taking 12 divers out there. So I'll be doing, briefings in intricate detail about the wrecks. But I haven't been back to Palau since before COVID. So for me, it's going to be interesting to go back to film them again, hopefully do better than I filmed them last time, and see if there's been any major changes, because wrecks naturally decay and collapse. So I'll be interested to go and do that. And there's one or two out there which I've tentatively identified, but nobody's got a firm we can say that this one is that particular wreck. So I'm going to go and do some bit more investigating. So one of the things I do is that I measure the cylinder heads of triple expansion engines, because all this triple expansion engine cylinder heads, 3 cylinders, high pressure, intermediate pressure, low pressure, all those are listed at Lloyd's register.
Okay.
So one way of identifying a ship is if you measure the cylinder heads, you think it's the Showa Maru number 5. You can get those records from Lloyd's register, and it can be, it's one way of saying, well, that's leading me towards thinking that it is the Showa Maru. So a few things I can do like that.
I suppose there'll be plaques on the engine as well where they're manufactured, will they?
Not in that one.
No.
And we found nothing identifiable. I was on the second dive on it back in the day when I was last there. And I don't know if people are still diving now, but it still hasn't been identified to this day. But it was a Japanese World War II auxiliary subchaser, like that would go pinging and echo locating American submarines. And it's got a whaler's bow, and it's got a little bow gun up on the very bow where a harpoon would have been.
Okay.
In a whaler. So I've got this one for a Japanese subchaser we know was sunk in Palau, called the Showa Maru, SHOWA, Showa Maru number 5. So it's got the right hull, and it started off in Europe as a Galathea or Galicia. She was a whaler for killing whales. So it's the right shape. It's got the right whaler's bow. It's got where the harpoon would have been, and it's the right size. I've measured the beam. The beam is 42 feet or something like that. It's the right beam.
Yeah.
But I want to measure the triple expansion engine, the cylinder heads, and if they coincide with Lloyd's, then that will be a bit more of the.
Well, that'd be good.
Yeah, and I'm just going to rummage around. It's 50 meters to the seabed, but I'll rummage around in the seabed in case, like you say, there's a maker's plate has fallen off the engine.
Yeah.
It's lying there and just covered in some sand, and it's been exposed. Who knows? You
Yeah.
don't know until you go there.
Yeah. And where's your local dive site to get, for stuff that, say you haven't dived for a while, and I know you've dived for years anyway, but say you want to just jump in somewhere and test something, where's your go-to local place to go do that?
There's a lovely quarry at beside Peterhead, which is the main training quarry for us. So my rebreathers away getting serviced at AP Diving, just because I'm going out to Palau in a few weeks' time. So I can't have it fail out there because it destroys. There's no backup there for rebreathers. So I need to know everything's hunky-dory. So when it comes back from AP after service, I'm going straight into the quarry just to dive it and and make sure everything's okay.
Is it open to the public?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, what site is that?
It's called Sterling Hill Quarry at Boddam, Boddam.
Okay. We kind of do a shout out to places because it's good for in the UK to try and get divers to keep diving. And we often do Vobster and Stony Cove and Spring Lakes and quite well known lakes, but there's often a lot of lakes out there which people don't know about.
Yeah.
It's good to hear about different lakes that we're out there.
Well, that's where I did a lot of my training as a novice diver in the early 80s, and back then it was all squidgy inflatables we were diving from. We didn't have rigid inflatables, so we would take the engine off the squidgy and take it into the quarry, capsize it, and then we would practice how to write a capsized squidgy and all that.
Nice one.
But it was good fun,
Yeah, no, and it's always good to promote other UK diving sites because people do get very blinkered into this is where I'm going to go, and
so all the local divers know about the Boddam Quarry, and that's where we all go to practice. So sometimes it can be busy. We can have 12 people,
It's good to visit different places and try somewhere new that you haven't experienced. If you're in the UK, especially if you're holidaying in the area,
exactly,
and you get blown out, from diving.
Absolutely. Well, that's perfect. There was a while that we were doing a Hogmanay dive on it, so we would all go up and drifting snow and all that. And one time it was covered ice. We got a huge big bit of granite and break an entrance through the ice to get into it and all that. It was quite exciting.
Haggis afterwards.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Well, I think we'll have to get you back after you've been on your travels and hear more about that because.
Well, this Palau trip is great because I just do shipwrecks, as you may have picked up, and these are all hardcore shipwreck divers who've never been there before, and they're all really interested. So I just can talk about
rebreathers.
No, there's 3 or 4 open circuit divers.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a mixture of twin set divers and a couple of people just dive in a single tank, which is absolutely fine.
Yeah. No, well, we look forward to seeing the footage and catching up with you after that. So no, that's really good. So we better get on to our set questions for all our guests.
Roger that.
So one of our first questions, if you could take 3 people diving They don't have to be divers, they can be past, present. Who would you take to the underwater world?
Well, I would obviously like to dive with Cousteau, Jacques Cousteau, because I've been so many places in the Pacific that he's been right in the same bit of water. And I recognise from all his videos back in the day, it was probably him that triggered my interest in the subsea. So I'd like to dive with him. And either I would like to take you two guys into some of the shipwrecks in Truk and spend 45 minutes showing you around some of the engine rooms and all that and some of the Japanese ships in Truk Lagoon. Or else I'd like to take my two daughters, Nicola and Katrina, because they've done a lot of work for the books, but they don't dive. And I'd be interested to show them,
Why don't they dive?
I don't know. I've done try dives from and all that, but they're just not that interested.
No, that's fair enough. And
they may change.
Yeah.
So that's
how old are they?
34 and 29.
Oh, it's plenty of time yet.
Yeah. No. Still young. So it'd be great.
Yeah.
Same age as me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's the first time somebody said take us diving.
Yeah, I would love to see the look of anticipation / fear in your eyes as say, right, we're going in through this bomb hole into this engine room, and we're just going to swim around for a bit. I'll show you around.
Yeah.
I'm like you. I love the history, and I've always been interested in World War II stuff. And nowadays there's so much like on YouTube now, and I love, there's quite a few of the interviews, which were recorded in the 70s. People now put on YouTube, and you can people not just on naval stuff, but on all sorts of stuff. I was watching a Meiji Yuga, the guy from Arnhem, an interview with him, and there's so much stuff on there. And your videos and things like that. It's easy for people like me to learn from. It's very it's very open, and part of that research on a wreck is that whole part of the history. It brings it all alive, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So it's great, and your books are good for that.
Yeah, the way I work is I shoot or I video wrecks as I swim around them, so I can then brief the artist. That I make up a little sort of montage from a video clip to say, right, this is what I want you to draw, because Rob Ward, the artist who does all my illustration, he's not a diver. He's never seen any of these wrecks that he's illustrated. Wow. He's done about 100 for me now, and he's utterly fantastic. What I've been conscious of, because I've been around diving for so long, is that I wish I'd had this ability to video in the 80s when the German ships at Scapa Flow were pristine. They looked as though they would float, and now they're all fallen to bits. And so rather than me pegging it with all this video footage tucked away and just getting thrown out, I thought on my YouTube channel, I'll get all this stuff out there in the public domain, and it's there forever. So in 50 years, a maritime archaeologist can look back and see what it was like.
Yeah, and it's good that you've done that, and because it is for people like the rest of us who then watch that and go and get fascinated by it, and then look into it more. So keep on doing that. So next question, comfort zone. What gets you out of your comfort zone? It doesn't have to be about diving, but what really really sort of pushes you?
I think I mentioned before, shipwrecks are designed to be upright. But when they're upside down, you've got all these, if you're going to go inside a shipwreck that's upside down, you've got all these huge pieces of stuff, like engines are only held on by 4 stainless steel pins. So outside my comfort zone is going into a shipwreck that's upside down. And I strongly discourage people to do that, because these things are collapsing. Things fall down all the time, and I've seen people being hit by things. So that's way outside my comfort zone. I just don't do that now.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And it's very easy to talk about this stuff, but actually, that is really quite risky, especially when they're virgin wrecks and you approach and stuff. And I remember watching John, one of our previous guests.
Patterson.
Who?
John Chatterton.
John Chatterton, sorry, yeah.
Oh,
John
you've had
Chatterton.
John Chatterton on.
When
Very
he
good.
went into one of the U-boats in the Atlantic,
Oh, that's
and there
famous,
was
yeah.
cables, wires, stuff everywhere, and he could have got trapped quite easily, and he was in there on his own. So, yeah, it's amazing. Right, Jem.
Yeah, always got to get back. So our final question, if you had a billboard that you could put out there to the whole world, what would you put on your billboard to convey a message to the world?
Well, if I wasn't going to put up Bikini Atoll, shipwrecks and nuclear tests, I would say go diving.
Yeah.
It will change your life. And it's changed my life.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's
Brilliant.
excellent. Yeah. And for anybody listening that is a very new diver or somebody that's a non-diver, what advice would you give them if they're just kind of thinking about maybe they should try this diving lark?
Well, I would say it will change your life. Your diving will take you to places that you never dreamt you would go. You will see things that most of the people who walk around on the land never see. And if you develop a particular interest like photography or shipwrecks for me, or even wet rock, you won't look back. It will change your life.
Yeah. Yeah. It's another dimension, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, that's been awesome. Yeah, an amazing conversation. So, and if people want to find out more about you, where can they find more? Have you got a website, socials?
Yeah, I've got a website, rodmacdonald.com. I've got a Facebook page that you can look at. I've got my YouTube channel that I put all my dive videos on. I do one every few months if I get a break from writing. And I've got about 56 videos on it just now, something like that.
Excellent.
And I'm on X or Twitter as well. So you can find me in a few places.
Yeah. Well, we'll put all the links in the show notes so people can just click.
Okay, thank you.
And follow you. Yeah.
I'm on your website. It's clear. You've got everything on there, and yeah, brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been really, really awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been fun. It's been fun.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you for having me on, guys.
No, thank you.
Good, guys. Thanks. It's been a lot of fun.
No, thanks for coming on.
Okay,
Great.
thanks again.
Thank you very
so
much.
Shut up.
Bye.
Well, what a great guest.
Amazing.
Great guest. And first off, we've got to say thanks to Rod for coming on. And we've kind of run on a bit, actually. And so a bit of a long one. And but we want to say thanks to Rod for giving us his time and sharing about these books. And, we hope you found this one interesting as well. There's so much, isn't there? 14 books, dives, some of the biggest dives out there. Been diving for umpteen years. And one of the guys out there who, for people like us, we can just, easily go diving to a certain extent because he's been out there paving the way. So, brilliant. Really enjoyed that.
Down to earth about it all and, just so passionate
spoke
about
to him for ages.
Yeah. I think, he's a guest that definitely is going to be visiting us again. Definitely.
Yeah. And I think it's sensible as well because, age comes to us all. And he's accepted that he's 66 and he's not going to do crazy dives unless there's something particular, that he really wants to do. Still keeping fit at 66 so he can dive and enjoying the dives, finding the magic in the dives, and great place to be.
Yeah. And to have that many books, equally shows his passion for getting the knowledge and the history out there as well to people.
Yeah, and exactly, and that's that. So brilliant.
Yeah. So thanks very much to Rod Macdonald. So definitely look him up and make sure you're following him on his socials and his YouTube channel.
And we've been on that same rebreather, haven't we?
We have
as a dry dive, and totally enjoyed that, and wouldn't mind doing that again actually. So
and equally it's good to hear that he's got his limits. 70 meters is probably his top depth.
Long way down still.
It is
70
a long way
meters
down.
is still a long way down.
Yeah. So, but having that passion that's lasted 40 plus years is just amazing.
You think that you think we came into it, and I've been diving 10 years. and that's nothing when you compare it
No.
to someone like himself. And I've only seen a little bit of technical advancement. Look at, if you dived
Yeah.
here 40 years ago, and you're now seeing how rebreathers have come on, and the different brands now, and the different
Mm.
options now. It is pretty amazing. And
Yeah.
let's face it, it's a good time to bring in our sponsors and say thank goodness for people like WWII who offer a service where they will
Yeah.
service these rebreathers for people, especially homemade rebreathers.
Yeah, and
People have.
he was saying that he came into the Scapa Flow 1982. So it's from then onwards that the rebreather market kind of really started. And you
But
think
did you pick up on the fact that he was saying that there was like up there back then, there would have
so
been
many boats.
12 dive boats up there, all with 12 divers on.
Yeah. Well, when we've
And
spoken to
there's probably
Sally,
3 or 4 now.
yeah, Sally from Midlands Dive Chamber, when she used to arrange all those trips, and how, they were really big events with all these divers on the boats. And, that has kind of dwindled. And, what have we got there now? 3 boats, hard boats.
The problem we've got is because of cheap flights. I think it's probably the biggest factor is what we're talking about. And maybe if you're listening to this, you've got an opinion, let us know. Maybe you disagree.
Maybe it's
Let's
loss
hear
of
about it.
his passion in the history because we're aging.
I don't know, but the trouble is for most people, if you to get from let's say anywhere from below Birmingham down, if you're in the Birmingham area, in the Midlands area, to get to Scapa is still quite a drive, isn't it? It's quite,
Yeah.
That's not a 5-minute drive. By the time you get up there, you've got to take a few days off, haven't you?
Yeah.
And you got the money involved in that. And plus, by the time you get up there, it could be blown out. There's no gamble in it, where you could easily just hop on a plane and fly to somewhere like Malta and other easy to get to locations and dive warmish waters, clearish waters, and
Yeah. Or even
so
further
you can see
afield,
the appeal. But it is
Yeah.
also a shame because Scapa Flow is one of the meccas of dive sites in the world to go to.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Well,
still want to go up there. I'd love to get dive at some stage.
yeah. Well, hopefully he's inspired, our listeners, and definitely, it's accessible to everybody, really, isn't it? With a bit of
Well,
preparation.
maybe it should be, and maybe there's elements to it where it should be more open to recreational divers, within the limits. And all right, you might not see the whole depth of the wrecks like you can, but there's still other places to dive.
Yeah, exactly.
Just thinking
And
of what way you could attract more people.
yeah, I mean, there's obviously people that have got Britannic and places, wrecks like that on their bucket list, but we all have to start somewhere, and Scapa Flow is effectively not on our doorstep. I know it's accessible, but it is there. So
Well, it is, and and more people are diving big wrecks like the deep wrecks like Britannic. James Sues, he's taking a group of people out there.
Dominic Robinson is out there ready to do it, I think, in a couple of days. So yeah.
So more and more people are doing these deep wrecks. So the technology is helping people reach these big depths.
Yeah, but imagine going on a trip with Rod and his knowledge and him briefing all those divings. It must just be, you just must be like inspired even before you get in the water to see these wrecks.
What do you research? I think, if you're going to go out there, you really want to do your research on the wrecks that are out there and talk to someone like Rod and say, right, these wrecks, which ones we're going to do your background on them, so you understand what you're actually looking at when you're under.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, you're just kind of just looking at pieces of metal and like you've heard what they're called, but you really want to know more about
the history,
don't you? What actually went on, what was the battles about.
Yeah. And then when he was talking about the bell and how he linked up with people that were actually on that wreck, that was just amazing.
Yes. Yeah, amazing story.
Mm.
To,
Yeah.
you know,
Also funny that he mentioned wet rocks.
well, you know, we've had
It's
that,
funny,
haven't
isn't
we?
it?
You know,
Yeah, but
cavers look at wreck divers and go, "Why are you diving these wrecks? The
I know,
one
I know,
piece
I
of
know. Yeah.
rusty metal looks like another piece of
But
rusty metal."
everybody has to find their niche, and he's got his niche, and that's what
You know, some people
fills
like the
him.
wildlife, don't they? And
They
that's all
do,
they're
yeah,
after. You know, you find what you're interested in and kind of reasonably stick with it, I guess.
yeah, yeah. So, but yeah, definitely big thank you to Rod, and definitely look him up and give him a follow.
Yeah. We want to say thank you very much for listening. And don't forget to look at NARC 90. Their service is beyond technical. Everything that you need for your dive computers, get them serviced if they haven't been serviced for a while. Rebreathers, they've got all that sort of equipment, anything to do with rebreathers, sensors, you name it, anything you need for your rebreather, give them a call, go on their website, it's all on there, even SMBs, reels, you name it.
Yeah.
They are the one-stop shop.
Yeah, and even if you just want a bit of advice about your rebreather, if you've come up against a bit of a brick wall with something, give them a call because they love solving problems.
They do. Also, we've got a new kind of partnership with Circular & Co. with these really fancy cups, coffee cups.
Yes, they are reusable coffee cups and also drinking water bottles that keep your water cold or hot.
One's made out of bubble gum.
Well, they make a range of reusable coffee cups made out of different types of material. So there's one made out of fishing nets, one sitting here on my desk made out of bubble gum, trainers, even recycled trainers.
Really?
Yeah. So there's a whole range. So if you're
not
looking,
smell of feet.
no, they're all very clean. But if you're looking for a gift for somebody, it's all about made from waste to end waste. That's their kind of tagline. So look them up. The link's in the show notes. And yeah, they just make a great gift. They're not expensive. And the real trend now is to have that reusable coffee cup that you take to Costa or Greg's or wherever and get your coffee, and you're not contributing to waste. You are just being very reusable.
And we've got a code.
We have. So if you go to the website Circular & Co. and use the code Big Scuba, you can pop that in and you get a lovely discount.
Win-win. How good is that?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, and thank you to the people that have, ordered some so far.
Brilliant. Excellent. Right. Okay. If you are listening to this, don't forget to tell your dive buddy. If they're not listening to the Big Scuba, get them on, get them involved. Don't forget to leave us a 5-star review wherever you're listening to us. Recently, I found a new we're on a different another platform, a new one called Podcast. You heard of that one? Podcast, 2 words. So look that one up if you looking for something different. I think they're all the same roughly, but I guess. So we're on that one now. So we're on various different platforms. Wherever you listen to us, if you leave us a 5-star review, that would be great. If you've got a story like Rod, get in contact, raise your hand with the class, let us know, and we'll get you on and do a recording with you.
Yeah, any recommendations for guests, then point them in our direction or connect us, which we've had quite a few just recently, which is great.
Yeah.
So we'll definitely make contact and get you booked on. And
particularly like people who've got a different kind of story as well. If there's something in the diving world that's not widely known, but there's something that maybe I don't know, as I say, you're an underwater juggler, or you do gymnastics underwater or something like that. I think, doesn't Ted Clark do underwater fitness as well, doesn't he? I think we'd hold in dumbbells and things.
Yeah, all sorts. So, but anyway, anything a bit quirky. Yeah. Don't be shy. Yeah, make contact.
Yeah.
So, yeah, definitely. And don't forget to follow us on our socials. We've got lots of adventures up and coming, and just follow us and keep up to date with what we're up to and who we're talking to.
Okay, so I think that kind of rounds things up. Say thank you very much for downloading this episode. Thanks for listening. Thanks for sticking with us. And that was
It was the Big Scuba Podcast.